Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Telosive EV, live on YouTube here just in time for the shareholder deck to be dropping. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Wednesday. We're almost near the end of January, and this one should be a little interesting. Emphasis on the should. We'll see. Sometimes these things find a way of letting me down. I would just be surprised, honestly, during the earnings call today to hear Elon talk about Tesla because I don't think I've heard him talk about Tesla in months. It feels like it's been forever. But yeah, he's very focused on the government. If it turns out he's not here today, I I would be pleasantly surprised. I'd be like, okay, Tesla's on autopilot, if you will. They're working just fine without him. But as I'm refreshing the ir.tesla.com page, because the earnings call's not for another 90 minutes, but the shareholder deck is, in my opinion, usually far more interesting. That's where all the numbers, all the financials come out. Um, and Tesla missed their own guidance last quarter. So I'm curious if the earnings are going to also reflect a miss or if they're going to beat everyone's expectations through surpassing energy sales. And that's kind of the great predicament Tesla may find itself in, is that even if you can't sell cars, they have built up such an efficient, vertically integrated energy business with Powerwalls and with Megapacks, and there's tons and tons of demand for these things. Basically, if you can't sell enough cars, then you have more batteries for energy storage projects. So, in that regard, I think even with really bad management, even with really poor decision making from the high ups at Tesla, you probably will still have a successful, profitable company. Um, dare I say, it's dangerous to say unbeatable, but I feel like there's not a situation where there's not a likely situation where Tesla goes under or bankrupt or anything like that, because I think they have a lot of talent and a lot of engineering resources to pivot as needed. And right now, Tesla is razor focused on the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that is Robotaxis and Optimus. And I personally have my doubts. I have my skepticisms. But despite all of those doubts and skepticisms, I have to admit this is really freaking cool that they announced recently. Oh my god, we don't need to play the music. Just play the video. There you go. So at the Tesla Fremont factory, which I've been to, the vehicles as they come off the assembly line are driving themselves now, which so many people were suggesting for years. Obviously, they go pretty slow. They have to speed this up a little bit. But as much as I have critiqued full self-driving, as much as I've been hard on it and said, yeah, it's not level 5, it's not unsupervised, let's not kid ourselves, and I think it's overrated, I think it's overhyped. Despite all of that, I got to admit, this is really freaking cool to see. This is actually a use case for self-driving that will genuinely benefit every Tesla, because this simplifies the logistics lot. This simplifies the manufacturing process now. And look at that. They got the semi driving them off there. That is so cool. Does it affect the consumer all that much? No, not really. It doesn't really change my life. This really only helps Tesla on the manufacturing side. But name another automaker that's actually able to do this, where as the vehicles are assembled, they can then drive themselves into the load up dock area. That's cool. That's really cool to me. I'm not saying this means level 5 is here. This means level 5 is around the corner. No, obviously, this is about a mile worth of driving that they have to do. And it could easily be pre-mapped. Waymo does far more impressive things on a daily basis than this, but still, it's cool to know that every full self-driving computer and all of those cameras that are used on Tesla's vehicles go to work literally within the first inch of leaving the factory. That's just cool to me. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people are skeptical of FSD, as am I, especially of all the missed timelines and whether or not it becomes a true robotaxi. I don't know, but this is cool, and this is happening right now. So I just wanted to give Tesla a quick shout out because I know I'm hard on Tesla's FSD a lot, but the shareholder deck should be up. There it is. There it is. Let's go. Let's dive in. I want to see the photos for it. There's over 3 billion miles driven on supervised as of January. Free cash flow of 3.6 billion, 2 billion in Q4. Seminal year FSD continues to rapidly improve with the aim of ultimately exceeding human levels of Robotaxi. Once again, I'll believe it when I see it. They're also just starting to roll it out in China. I want to know about more affordable models. Lower cost per vehicle, including lower cost material, partially offset by lower fixed cost absorption, regulatory credit revenue, um, reduced Tesla vehicle average selling price. Yeah, I not surprised by that. Um, let's see. Oh, they're combining. Oh, now they finally list Cybercab as Giga Texas production. I guess that makes sense. Semi-factory construction continued in Q4 and recently completed roof and wall enclosure of the main building area. First trucks build are scheduled to start by end of 2025, with ramp beginning in early 2026. Preparation is underway for Cybercab lines at Gigafactory Texas, with volume production planned for 2026. Wow. Oh, here we go. Preparations are underway across our existing factories for the launch of new products in 2025, including more affordable models. Is that all we're hearing today? Oh, we gotta wait till summer. Model Y was the best-selling vehicle of any type in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. Probably not the more populated countries. Tesla was the most sold brand in Norway for a fourth year in a row. That's good. First sodamine, lithium containing concentrate through the front end of the lithium refinery only 18 months after groundbreaking, much faster than any plant we know of outside of Asia. Intermediate material was on spec, and we were on track to commission the plant. Our in-house 4680 cell hit a production rate exceeding 2,500 Cybertrucks per week. What's the run rate? Yeah, this still says 125,000. So they're definitely not cell constrained. We expect Cybertruck to be eligible for the IRA consumer tax credit. I thought you didn't need the tax credit. Helping to improve affordability and access for even more customers. Wait. Why would you say that? You haven't sold out of inventory, have you? Plans for new vehicles, including more affordable models, remain on track for start of production in the first half of 2025. That's now! Tesla. These vehicles will utilize aspect. Yeah, we know all that. Our purpose-built Robotaxi product will continue to pursue a revolutionary unbox process. Any new pictures? Ooh, this is new. Use in future vehicles. Gigacastings, 48 volt, yada yada. There's the refresh Model Y. Will Elon talk about it today? Do they have to compare it? Uh, they don't mention that the old Model Y had 7 seats, and the new one does not. There's no 7-seater on the refresh Model Y. Come on. They've been saying first half of 2025 for several months now. Oh my god. Okay, that's not important. Giga Semi. First semi build scheduled later this year. Awesome. I can't wait for the Tesla Semi, honestly, might be one of the most interesting things going on at Tesla for me. I know most people are, they want us to be focused on robotaxis, but Mega Factory Shanghai with Giga Factory. Oh, wow. Okay. So this factory is just for Mega Pack, and then this factory is for cars. That's amazing. Yep. General Assembly, lithium refinery. They're finally flipping on the refinery. Spodumene Day. Interesting that they mentioned the Cybertruck will qualify for the tax credit, because that's basically telling everyone not to buy the Cybertruck right now, unless they're dropping the new one. Am I missing something? Uh, let's go to the order page, see if anything's changed. Yes, Lionel. Unfortunately, they're still babbling. Let's turn off gas savings. Okay. There's a clean vehicle credit, but not a commercial clean. Businesses and tax-exempt organizations may qualify. Interesting. Yeah, but if you're not a business, there's no price drop. There's probably still some of these in inventory. I just don't like the idea of cars that are going to cost people like me who drives for a living their jobs. Well, I'm afraid that's just the world we're living in. There's a lot of that. It's not a new thing. Automation and new technology has taken away jobs for centuries. So we can fight it and resist it as much as we want, but it happens. And then if you try to artificially keep the jobs around, they typically don't last either. So it's a shame, but that's just the way the world works. Second generation hardware. What does that mean? Connectivity. Yeah, there's not much new information about this. They're just a list of advancements in vehicle technology, air bending manufacturing process, full hard stainless steel without touching it. Yeah, but average cost of goods per vehicle achieved an all time low. Wow. So below 35 grand on average. So that includes the higher end Cybertrucks too. Geez. So I wonder what it cost them to build like a base Model 3. It's probably getting really low now. That's a good sign. Hopefully that helps them lower prices. There's not much guidance on. Wait, this should help us fully utilize our current expected maximum capacity, enabling more than 60% growth over 2024 production. Wow. What? Previously expected, but enables less cost reduction. So more, then us prudently grow our vehicle volumes in more capex efficient manner during uncertain times. What's so uncertain? What are we uncertain about now? Didn't Elon get the election he wanted? This should help us fully utilize our current expected maximum capacity to close to 3 million vehicles. Jeez, enabling more than 60% growth over 2024 production. That's a lot. Are they sure they mean 60%? We have sufficient liquidity to fund our product roadmap, long-term capacity expansion plans, and other expenses. We will manage the business such that we maintain a strong balance sheet during this uncertain period. What's with all the uncertainty? I don't understand. Yeah, market share, I guess, is down a bit. Um, more affordable models and the new Model Y. So, do they just mean more affordable than the launch edition Model Y? Because that's not affordable. Hello, Snore. Hey, Jimmy. Hey, everybody. I'm interested in the battery storage market. I don't. It's a good market. I'm glad they're going after it. It's not particularly exciting, in my opinion. It's hard to get pumped about because it's mostly just selling to utility companies. But let's see. We've got some updates on services. We added over 3,000 supercharger stalls to the network in Q4. Wow, that's impressive. And delivered over 1.4 terawatt hours of energy. We unveiled our V4 cabinet. Oh yeah, I want to know more about this, which supports 400 volt and 1,000 volt architectures, charges up to 500 kilowatts for the Cybertruck. Um, 1.2 megawatts for Tesla Semi and has cutting edge power electronics with 3 times the power density. We launched battery heating at superchargers, a feature that gets vehicles with LFP battery packs, that's me, back on the road up to 4 times faster. Okay. I wonder if that will make a noticeable difference on my next road trip. We'll see. We also continue to welcome more OEMs to the North American supercharger network, including the first NACS native vehicles. That's the closest thing we're going to get to a lucid gravity shout out. We are also continued to welcome more OEMs to the North American Supercharger network. All right. Thank you, Tesla. Including the first NACS native vehicles. You said that. Overall, in 2024, we launched superchargers in 3 new countries. I think one is the Philippines. And added over 10,000 new supercharger stalls and grew the network by 19% year over year. That's incredible considering how many there were. There's a total of 65,000 plus superchargers worldwide. We delivered 5.2 terawatt hours, geez, offsetting over 5.5 billion kilograms of direct CO2 emissions and 2.4 billion liters of gasoline. What's that in American? Yes, Aptera and Tello will be NACS native. We agreed on that from the beginning. Energy and services, other gross profit. Yeah, it's not terribly low, but also not record breaking. Energy storage deployments, though. Whew! Yeah, I guess in the grand scheme of things, energy and services profit is much, much higher in millions. Over $800 million in gross profit. Yeah, energy keeps them afloat no matter what the automotive market does. Um, Progress on Optimus hardware and software continued in Q4, including the latest generation hand. We saw that at the We Robot event. Um, Robust locomotion and training on additional tasks ahead of pilot production in 2025. Okay. I'm wondering. Okay, here's the expectations. Um, Earnings result estimated versus reported. Um, so Wall Street was expecting 27 billion and Tesla reported 25. Non-GAAP EPS was expected to be 75 cents and it ended up being 73. Free cash flow, free cash flow was expected to be 1.75 billion, ended up being 2 billion. So that's actually better than expected. But the gross margins were expected to be at 18.9%. Instead, they're at 16.3%. So a little bit lower than expectations in some regard. I'm just to be clear, hey, they brought some of them back. Good. They will need to expand. I think I'll need it. Driving is the one job I've been able to keep. It's literally the one I'm good at. I hope you can hold on to it. The good news is robotaxis aren't rolling out anytime soon, in my opinion. I don't know where in the world you are, but uh, currently it's not even available in limited form. And from what I've learned following Tesla, everything takes way longer than expected. So I think your job will be okay in the meantime. Um, just to be clear, I am not a Tesla stockholder anymore. I've just decided it's not for me. But I'm curious how the aftermarket is responding. As usual, not responding too positively. We're down 3% after hours, but not massive movement. I think a lot of the emotional buyer sellers tend to sell anytime there's slightly bad news. Nothing here is jumping out at me as particularly bad. Obviously, the market share declining a little bit is not that big a deal because the EV market is growing as a whole. The biggest fact that I think they're trying to cover up in this report is definitely, I think, that Tesla delivered fewer vehicles in 2024 than 2023. Not a lot. It's only like the deliveries were down 1%. So it's pretty close to delivering basically the same amount of vehicles in 2024 as 2023. But I will still push back on that and say it's not good because a lot of the Tesla market cap, which is currently at $1.2 trillion, most of that, I think, simply because Elon wanted, Trump to win and Trump won. And a bunch of people thought that must be good for Tesla. I don't understand how. I still can't wrap my brain around why that's good for Tesla. Um, Especially with the potential of the tax credit going away. But here, right on the vehicle capacity page, they're bragging about how the Cybertruck will be eligible for the consumer tax credit. I was like, Elon's been openly advocating against keeping the tax credit. And yet here Tesla's bragging about qualifying for it. So I feel like there's some pushback. There's got to be some pushback internally at the company between what Elon wants and what the rest of Tesla wants. Because, like it or not, Tesla benefits the most from the IRA consumer tax credit by far. It's not even close. No one else comes close to benefiting from it. Rivian barely collects anything from the IRA credits because most of their vehicles don't qualify. They're too expensive or they use imported batteries. Lucid's vehicles definitely don't qualify because they've pretty much only delivered sedans so far, and there's a 55K cap on sedans for qualifying. So basically, hardly any tax credits have been recognized by Lucid or Rivian. The only other companies really taking advantage of the tax credit, aside from Tesla, are legacy automakers, and they don't make much money from EVs anyway. They're making most of their money from gas vehicle sales. So I think the sad reality is that taking away the IRA tax credit, which I don't love the tax credit, I'm just saying it's here, it exists, and it benefits EV brands. I would have structured it completely differently, but that's a topic for 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Um, my point is Tesla has the most to lose from the tax credit going away. The legacy automakers will continue making money off of their gas vehicles. Um, and the EV startups weren't collecting much credits anyway. Maybe in the long term, you could argue it makes it harder for Rivian to make a profit off of the R2, but they never from the beginning counted on that. If you listen to RJ talk about it, and when they asked about the pricing, they were like, is 45K including the tax credit, or is that before the credit? And Rivian was always like, we're not we're not counting on anything. This is just like the lower price we're targeting. I'm sure Rivian wants it to be as cheap as possible, and that's what they're going to do. And yeah, if anything, the tax credit going away benefits Aptera, yeah, because the Aptera suddenly, I mean, nothing really changes with the Aptera price. They say they're targeting 40K. It'll probably end up being that. And then all of Tesla's closest Aptera alternatives or competitors, you could say, just all of them go up $7,500, which I don't think is good for Tesla. But will it kill them? No, they'll be fine. They'll find a way to cut costs. I would be shocked if Tesla just left all vehicles the same price. They will probably lower prices to compensate for the tax credit going away, but that eats into margins, so they won't be as profitable. But based on what they've said in the past, I think Tesla is okay with that because they believe cybercab and robotaxis are the future. That's where all the money is, right? Good morning from Australia. Hey, Rob. Thanks for tuning in. Markets aren't smart. There's just a whole lot of vibes. I agree, and that's why I've kind of gotten out of the what do you call it? Uh, I've kind of moved away from the buying individual stocks. I'm pretty much just all in on high dividend mutual funds now. Partly, there's a bunch of reasons I decided to get out of the stock game. One of them, though, was that I just felt like the market has never really behaved that rationally. You know, seeing it jump up based on the election or based on Hertz buying a bunch of vehicles. I was like, this is weird. Like, it didn't change the state of the company, or again, a bunch of people sell off because of some weird headline that goes live, or some, you know, there's some attack that ends up using a Cybertruck as the vessel for a weapon. That kind of thing goes on, and then the stock goes down. And I'm like, I don't want that much of my net worth attached to such a volatile stock. I'm not trying to say I think Tesla stock will go down. I highly discourage anyone short a stock. I don't think you should ever short a stock, no matter how bad you think the company is, no matter how convinced you are that the stock will fail. I think shorting is just dangerous and stupid, um, and arguably unethical. But I just decided it wasn't for me. And if it is for you, if you're willing to take on more risk and you're comfortable with having a very volatile stock in your portfolio, by all means, I'm not an investment advisor. You can do what you want with your own money. But I just decided it wasn't for me. Um, a friend told me he thinks 70% of Americans won't own a car in 5 years with all the robocabs taking over. And I just, yeah. You know what's funny? 2016, almost a decade ago, Elon tweeted in 2016 that he believed Smart Summon would work across the country in 2018. He thought the Teslas would be capable of driving around with nobody inside and driving across states by 2018. And it is now 2025. So I was on podcasts with a few people. I won't name names because I don't want to start drama or, out anybody. But there were people I spoke with, not just over chat, but over video call on their podcast, that told me I am buying. This was in 2020, mind you. Back in 2020, they said I'm gonna buy 4 Tesla Model Ys, and I'm gonna buy full self-driving for each of them so that I can turn them into my own Robotaxi fleet. And I consider this a worthy investment because it's my retirement plan. Someone, no joke, a full-grown adult that was older than me. I'm not saying who. You'll have to you'll have to do some digging to find out who I'm talking about. But there was literally a person who told me in 2020 they were buying 4 Model Ys with FSD so that those 4 Model Ys could act as robotaxis as their retirement plan. That was going to be their primary source of income, was those 4 Model Ys driving people around in their city. And I was like, okay, you could do that. it might not work out. And he was like, oh, it's definitely going to work out. Did you see Autonomy Day? Tesla knows what they're doing. They have the custom Hardware 3 computer. The Hardware 3 computer has so much redundancy and so much overhead built in. Flash forward to today, and Tesla's like, Hardware 3? It might need an upgrade. It might not actually do it. So that's why if you find me a little bit overly critical towards FSD, it's because I've met people, more than one. I've met multiple people who highly regret purchasing full self-driving. That spent 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 more. I know multiple people who paid a premium for full self-driving, paid more than it's worth today, who are like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake. I regret it. And I'm like, I don't want people out there buying these future promises. If the future promises get delivered, then great. But so far, there has been no evidence to suggest that there's some payoff by buying it today. Everyone is like, well, you should buy it now because it's going to go up in price over time. Yeah, the price has been cut in half over the past few years. There were a bunch of people who bought FSD for 10 grand or 15 grand. Yeah, they were charging $15,000 for it, Richie, and now it's 8,000. Or you could subscribe to it for $100 a month. And if you just took that extra cash, that extra $7,900 you had lying around, put that in the stock market, after a while it would easily start paying for the membership. And FSD can't see potholes. Thank you, Dad. Good to see you. My dad's in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I guess just to give you a little perspective, thanks to all of you. Special shout out. I don't mean to be negative. I just want to be real, and I'm tired of interacting with people who regret buying FSD. So I'm doing this as a protective measure. I'm not doing this to push some kind of narrative. I'm not doing this to push some kind of short sale. I'm fully against shorting any stock. I don't care how bad the company is. I'm against stock shorting, period. I have nothing to gain from Tesla failing. I actually have a lot to lose from Tesla failing because I'm a Tesla customer. I benefit from Tesla doing well. I want more and more superchargers. I want more and more NACS vehicles. The company I work for has a lot to gain from more superchargers in the ground. So there's all kinds of benefits from Tesla doing well. And I want them to do well, but I also want to send them a message that FSD is not worth 8K. If it reaches a point where it can drive people around and make me $30,000 a year, okay, sure. Then you could get away with charging $20,000 for FSD, sure. But the argument that we should buy it now because it will later do that, this is fish oil. This is, I mean, not fish, snake oil sales. That's sketchy. It's scummy. It's borderline scammy. There's been lawsuits over it. Thankfully, Tesla hasn't gotten in major trouble yet, but still, it's just don't do it. Tesla makes great cars on their own. You should buy a Tesla because you love how it is in its current form. You should not buy one because you think next year it's going to drive you around with unsupervised FSD. All that being said, with all of my critiques, with all of my criticisms, I still think this is really freaking cool. I'm sorry. We've been talking about this for years. I remember we've been bragging and begging Tesla. It's like, hey, why don't they drive themselves out of the factory? So for those who just joined the stream, this is a video Tesla put out this morning or yesterday, pretty recently. The cars, as they are being assembled out of the factory, can now drive themselves into the logistics lots. So all of the cars you're seeing that were just built have nobody in them, and they drive themselves where they need to go. That's so cool. Look at that. They're driving through. There's cameras and all these lights that are inspecting all of those cars in a row. No one's driving those. They're all just coming right off the assembly line and parking right where the semi trucks load them up. And what kind of semi trucks? You'll see in a second. It's the kicker. It's the best Tesla in development right now. There you go. Multiple Tesla semi trucks loading them up. That is so cool. I still think it's a worthy thing to pursue. I'm glad Tesla is trying to figure this out. It's a noble field because humans are getting worse and worse at driving every year. So I think it's a good thing to pursue self-driving, especially generalized approaches that don't require pre-mapping. I'm very thankful Tesla's doing that. It's not worth $8,000 though. I'm sorry. And when you pay for the membership, you also get to take advantage of the free trials. For some Teslas, there's been 3 free trials in the past year. When you pay for it outright, you don't get to take advantage of that. And because they've cut the price on FSD multiple times in the past few years, to me, that's all the more reason you should not be paying for it outright. Because it could go down again for all we know. There might come a point where they decide, the take rate's not high enough. Let's cut the price to $4,000, and then everybody who paid $8,000 is going to feel ripped off, right? That's why I'm hesitant. I'm very thankful for you guys using my referral code and giving me lots of free Tesla charging. That's seriously been a substantial cost savings to me. And I'm using those miles. I'm putting a ton of miles on my car. I'm using it for road trips. I'm driving to work and back, which is not nearby. And I'm trying to do that so I can also give you an fairly accurate ownership experience with the LFP Model 3. I know LFP's gone right now, but I do think it will return. I think if there's a bunch of people out there who are, they're even mentioning LFP in here. We'll get some good charts or something. There's the semi factory in Nevada. So more semis coming through, but I want to charge my Tesla and drive it like crazy so that I can give you guys accurate degradation information to figure out how does LFP age over time. So that's the coverage am hoping to cover. But even through all of my Tesla referral credits, I could get FSD for free right now. It would literally cost me nothing. I would just buy it with my Tesla credits that I already have redeemed on my Tesla wallet. I could get FSD for free right now, and I haven't. I literally haven't. Let's see. Just like electrons in a battery. That's right. You being critical and realistic. That's why I'm here and not on some other Tesla channel stuck in their echo chamber. There's a lot of echo chambers, that's for sure. But honestly, I probably should join some echo chamber because it tends to do a lot better for your channel, if I'm being honest. You get a lot more views when you subscribe to extreme opinions. Like if you go in with Tesla's unstoppable, Tesla's the future, Tesla's going to do everything they say they're going to do, robotaxis are coming, they're going to make trillions of dollars, and Tesla bot is going to replace all manual labor jobs. The channels that say all that get way more views than I do. They support a narrative that a lot of people want because I think they put their life savings or they put a substantially high percentage of their net worth into Tesla stock. So there's a bunch of people that obviously want to believe and do believe that Tesla is going to skyrocket and it's going to 10x or 100x from here. So we call that bull chow. It's not BS, it's bull chow because the Tesla bulls eat that stuff up. If I just go on camera and start talking about how unstoppable, how great Tesla is, a bunch of bulls are going to come and go, "Oh yeah, that's delicious. I I need those robots. They're my retirement plan. I'm going to be a billionaire. Keep talking. Keep talking. No, that's right." I wasn't planning to do that, but these pretzels are amazing. Wow. 1 hour to go till the earnings call, folks. I'm sorry, that was gross. 1 more hour and then the earnings call will begin. Should we see what the... Hey, Bearded Tesla guy. Should we see what the... general consensus is from Twitter? Ooh. Aptera is asking what kinds of content would we like for the production intent vehicles? How about a video of me driving one home? That sounds fun. Don't get FSD because you have hardware 3, I believe. Well, I haven't got it, so don't worry about that. But also, even if I did want it, if we're going to believe Elon at all, some people do, some people don't. But if we're going to believe Elon with robotaxis, here's my problem with people telling me that. Like, oh no, don't buy an old Tesla because that has hardware 3. You're stuck with hardware 3. I take issue with that criticism. Either you believe Elon or you don't, right? If you believe Elon is the guy on the last earnings call who said if you paid for full self-driving, you will get a hardware 3 upgrade. They will upgrade the computer in your hardware 3 Tesla to a newer computer. I don't know if it's hardware 4, hardware 5, or something, but they said if you paid for FSD, you will get it. You will get an upgrade if we discover that hardware 3 is not enough, I think is what he said. The more time that goes by, I think the more we're realizing hardware 3 is probably not enough. I I'm not convinced hardware 4 is enough personally, but I don't think anyone truly knows what enough is because they haven't figured it out. They still don't exactly know. And there was a huge FSD version 13.2 update that just went live, and everybody hated it. Chuck Cook even was critiquing it. It was like Chuck Cook was testing it, and it went on the wrong side of the road. It literally tried to go on the left side of the road in America, where it's supposed to be on the right side of the road. And a bunch of people were like, "This one sucks. Don't use this one. It's really bad." And that's on hardware 4, right? So, um, and Chris is still discovering issues with salt buildup on hardware 4, which is on the Cybertruck. So I'm not convinced anyone knows what hardware is necessary. But if you believe Elon, the fact that you have hardware 3 shouldn't matter. As long as you paid for FSD, you're getting the upgrade, right? Or if you don't believe Elon and you don't believe that they can achieve FSD, then why would you prioritize hardware 4? It's all just going to be a driver assistance feature at the end of the day. They both can keep you on the highway. Hardware 4 probably performs a little bit better on city streets, but uh, if it's if it's really that far behind, FSD is supposed to include an upgrade, right? I got a short ride in Hermes. It rides like a car. Oh, cool. Jeffrey was at the Aptera event. I'm so jealous. I wish I could have been at CES. Drew needs to hit them up for a sponsorship. Who are we talking about? Aptera really does look like a hoot to drive. Oh, Aptera needs to sponsor me? Oh, that's that'd be a waste of money in my opinion. They know I'm gonna say good things about them anyway. They don't need to pay me. They don't need to pay me, but I will accept a form of payment through the vehicle. I don't want money from Aptera. I'm good on money. I appreciate all of you channel members out there who are supporting. Thank you. But just to be clear, everybody could cancel their channel membership and I'd be totally fine. I love talking about this stuff. All this stuff is fun for me. It's exciting just to dive into what's coming next and what's Tesla going to do and what's Rivian going to do. How's Lucid going to perform? Are they going to keep pulling from the Saudis? What's Aptera going to do? What's going on at Tello? So much cool stuff at Tello I can't talk about. But it's fun for me to talk about. The fact that I make any money at this at all is a huge miracle and a tremendous blessing. So I'm thankful for that. But I just want the car from Aptera. Honestly, that's all I want. I would work for them full time for free if they just gave me one of the PI builds. I don't care if it's done. I'll take an unfinished one at this point. I want a solar car. The fact that the vehicle at CES was already charging itself, and they how far did they drive it? I think he said they drove it 25 miles, and the battery percentage went up that day. They didn't lose any battery. They gained battery and drove 25 miles, and they didn't have any wheel pants on. They were caught with their wheel pants down. Just the wheels exposed, which is horrible for aerodynamics. And yet they were still gaining more charge than they were using. I was like, I'm sold. Give me that one. I will take Hermes. Even Dad says, no, you need money. I got money. I I don't know. The more I have, the more life stays the same. Waiting for the track numbers. The track numbers should only get better. I don't see why they would get worse. But sorry, these pretzels are good. Shout out to not a sponsor. They probably should be. Snyder's of Hanover, America's Pretzel Bakery. I was curious. I'm trying to cut back on sugar. There's 0 grams of added sugar. Total sugars are below 1 gram per serving. One serving is 23 pretzels. That's pretty good. That's not bad. Spoken like a dad. How do I feel about Rivian right now? Thank you for asking, Richie. Thank you for bringing that up because I actually have a lot of opinions on Rivian. I actually feel I'm not a stockholder anymore. I don't buy individual stocks anymore. Just to be clear. Whoa, that's cool. Um, I like how Teslarati's like their plans to introduce new products. That is a Grok generated Roadster. That is not the more affordable model. Um, but I've never felt more bullish on Rivian. And I don't mean the stock. I just mean a general statement that Rivian's going to make it. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to do okay. Um, they're going to recognize a lot of EV credits, I think, for Q4. I might actually have to do a live reaction to Rivian's earnings because I'm very curious about if they actually broke even in Q4 because they said they were going to do it. They gave guidance for a certain delivery amount, and then they exceeded that delivery amount. So they delivered more vehicles than they expected, and they expected to break even, which really puts them in the serious player game. That's when I think they've officially moved on. You guys might have different opinions. Personally, I think if the company turns a profit, well, it's probably a bad example, but I think if an automotive company starts turning a profit, they're basically not a startup anymore. It's like, okay, now you're in the real ball game. Now you're for real. You're an actual company. This is not a theoretical profit of some kind. This is legit. Like you're actually making money on your products. You're not dependent on, geez, the stuff you see on Twitter. It's ridiculous. Oh, that's a cool picture. 7,000 supercharger stations worldwide and over 65,000 stalls. Cool. Beautiful. Rivian has secured the Department of Energy loan for like $6.5 billion. So they're receiving federal money and state money. And it seems like they're expanding their Volkswagen partnership. And RJ recently reported with more OEMs knocking on the door. So Volkswagen's the only public company that is licensing Rivian's zonal electronic architecture and software. There is probably more that are in line that we don't know about yet. So Rivian software is an IP, a valuable asset that other legacy automakers are interested in licensing, and Volkswagen is massive. That includes Audi, that includes Porsche. Um, there's a bunch of people that are part of the Volkswagen group. I can't think of them all off the top of my head, but there's a lot of companies included, and they all want to use Rivian Zonal Electronics and Rivian software. And especially now that they've secured that loan from the Department of Energy, and before you act like, that's the government stepping in when they shouldn't. Tesla only exists because of the Department of Energy. Tesla was about to die until they secured a loan from the Department of Energy back in 2017, I think, 2016. Basically, in the middle of the Model 3 ramp, Elon has said this on the record, by the way. They were weeks away from bankruptcy, and that loan saved them. Basically, Department of Energy is there to help incentivize, young up and comers to build domestically sourced, all electric vehicles because they want to be competitive because China's kind of crushing us right now. China has amazing EVs, and they would probably annihilate everything else in the US market if they were here, but tariffs are keeping them out for now. But still, you want to have good jobs and you want to have good factories and good products that are American made. So the government is, rightfully, I think, helping these startups get off the ground. Um, but knowing now that they can build the R2 at the normal plant and that they've secured funding for ramping up that production, yeah, I know. It was so hilarious that Elon was mad. That's called pulling up the ladder. It's like Tesla barely survives by taking advantage of the Department of Energy loan. And now that Tesla's profitable on their own, they pull up the ladder and then make fun of other people. No, you should climb up this wall on your own. You don't need a ladder. I don't have a ladder. Do you see me with a ladder? It's like, yeah, but you had the ladder. You just pulled it up. But the fact that a lot of people, I think, are going to love the R2. It's basically the size, the height, and the length of the best-selling car in the world, the Model Y. Except it's better than the Model Y in almost every way. It's got great software. It's got more storage capacity. It'll be faster than a Model Y because they're doing the tri-motor. It might be a bit more expensive than the Model Y, but I think a lot of people have shown they're willing to pay a premium for a product if it's a bit better. And it has NACS, it'll have full supercharger access, and Rivian is doubling down on autonomy with their whole new platform and their NVIDIA super self-driving computer that's even got more tera operation per second capacity than what Tesla's hardware has. Rivian's got more cameras. They've got radar. They've just got an amazing sensor suite, and they're training. They're training it now. We're seeing them drive around the Bay Area with these test mules to test the self-driving capabilities. So I just feel like Rivian's got great software, and now they're figuring out how to profitably manufacture. They've learned a lot from the R1T and R1S, which aren't quite profitable yet, but they're getting close. They're getting there. They're not. Lucid is nowhere near close. The Lucid Air is not even thinking about profitability. They're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars per vehicle sold. And it's incredibly impressive that Rivian is able to come close to profitability with the R1T and R1S because they're big, heavy, expensive vehicles. But the R2 should be lighter. It's switching to a different cell chemistry, not chemistry, cell size that should be simpler to manufacture. At least that's why Tesla's using 4680s on the Cybertruck. There's fewer cells. It's a structural battery pack. Rivian's doing the same thing with the R2, 4695s. So a little bit taller than the 4680, which is good, but still probably a small number of cells. There might come an issue with the charging, as we're discovering the 4680 pack does not have a great charging curve. Something about them being more temperature sensitive, it appears. It feels like I'm no expert on batteries. I probably know a little bit more than the average person, but I would not consider myself a battery expert. But if I understand what I've read correctly, um, I think that part of the issue with using, um, man, everybody wants to text me when I'm live. I swear to God. Thank you, everyone. I don't know if he's watching, whoever's texting me this. um, I think when you have bigger cells, because the spaces between the cells are harder to cool, the battery pack becomes more temperature sensitive. People are discovering in the wintertime that the Cybertruck tends to show up that little snowflake icon, which means your range is limited because of the battery temperature. That seems to show up a lot, and also the battery pack tends to get hot a lot faster than other cylindrical cells, which is why the charging curve is not that great. So a lot of people have been disappointed with the charging specs of the Cybertruck. Like, yeah, it can at these V4s, it can hit a new peak rate of like 325 kilowatts, but it just tapers down so fast. So compared to the old chargers, it's only like 6 minutes faster over a 35-minute period. So it's a little bit faster, but it tapers so much that it's not worth it. Um, and I wonder if Rivian is going to face a similar issue. They haven't talked much about charging on the R2, but my hope is most people buying it are buying it as a family vehicle, and families are probably less time sensitive on road trips. If you got like kids or young ones in the back in car seats, you're going to be needing to take a break so that they can get out because they don't want to sit in the car all that long. So you don't mind if the car takes a little bit longer to charge. At least that's what Chris has documented with his Cybertruck ownership experience on the Dirty Tesla channel. Um, he's road tripped to Florida several times in his Cybertruck, and he's like, yeah, it takes a bit for the Cybertruck to charge up because it's such a big battery pack and it's not a very efficient vehicle, but he's got his little kids in the back and they get tired and they want to take a break and they want to run around a little bit. So I think being a family vehicle, the R2 will be okay if it doesn't have the best possible charging. Um, I mean, Teslas don't even have the greatest charging anymore. I mean, they were really good back in 2017 when the Model 3 first came out. It was like, oh my God, this relatively affordable vehicle can get 250 kilowatts. That's insane. But now, seeing the charging curve on Ioniq 5 and Kia and Porsche, it's like, oh my God, Tesla's kind of falling behind. But um, Tesla got a loan. Everyone else seems to be getting grants. No, the Rivian got a Department of Energy loan. They do have to pay it back with interest, which means the taxpayer actually will make money on the loan. That's an argument Elon used in defense of Tesla, but I wouldn't be surprised if he mysteriously ignores that point with Rivian. Um, but yeah, Rivian's getting a $6.5 billion loan from the Department of Energy, just to be clear. RJ said they have 85% of the materials R2 in line with the $45,000 goal. That's fantastic. Yeah, and I won't be shocked at all. I want to warn people of this because it's typically forgotten about every time a new vehicle launches. Most companies, it's more expensive during the initial production ramp. It's difficult to make a vehicle profitably until you've ironed out the assembly line and you're building it consistently at whatever the capacity is of that line. Um, I was not shocked at all by the Tesla launch series. Obviously, it takes some time for them to ramp up the assembly line. So the new Model Y starts out pretty expensive, right? It's like 60 grand before incentives, but after sales tax, it still basically breaks out to 60 grand. And everyone's like, why is it so expensive? Why do they make you buy FSD? And I'm like, no, they're just trying to secure margins because there's not a lot of them right now. Everybody's going to want the new Model Y, and there's not a lot available. So Tesla's capitalizing on that supply and demand. That's not wrong. That's not unethical. That's what a business does. That they have a responsibility to do that for their shareholders, and you can literally get in trouble if you don't prioritize profits with publicly traded companies, because that means you're acting against your shareholders' interest. So, like it or not, that's just the world we live in. That's what a company's supposed to do. Um, but I think Rivian will probably do something similar with the R2. I think the floor, of course, will be much, much lower. Um, I think there's a chance. It's probably not going to happen right away. It'll probably take a few months. But I do think there's a real chance Rivian can hit $45,000 with a standard range rear-wheel drive Rivian R2. And that's going to be dope. It's going to be awesome to have a Rivian that's the price of a Model Y. That's just awesome. It's going to have more storage than a Model Y, probably a bigger battery pack because it won't be as efficient. I think the Rivian R2 will probably be rocking like a 90 to 100 kilowatt hour pack, but battery prices have been falling drastically lately. So on one hand, you might think, oh, Rivian's going to need a bigger battery pack, so how are they going to make it cheaper than a Model Y? Well, truth is, I know this from working with Tello and communicating with Aptera. Battery prices have fallen a lot. It's not the same story that it was a few years ago, because a lot of legacy automakers have scaled back on their EV production. There's a lot of competition now in the cell manufacturing space, which just means that going with a bigger battery pack is not actually that much more expensive. It's partly why I wish Tesla would start shipping some bigger batteries in the Model 3 and Y. They could get some serious range out of them. But I guess Tesla just doesn't think that'll help sell cars or something. But um, I think a lot of people, maybe because they just don't want to deal with Elon, they don't want to be associated with Elon, might consider a Rivian. Um, it's not everybody, but Rivian has built an amazing brand. And I think the R2, this is kind of what tomorrow's video is going to be about. The channel members already saw the video. It's live for them already. But if you're not a channel member, you'll see the video tomorrow. It's kind of a lengthy one. I apologize. I couldn't shut up. I was too excited by this. But it's basically like a 20-minute video explaining why the Rivian R2 is not, it's not a Model Y killer. I think that's too drastic. I hate the term Tesla killer. However, I do think it will be the closest we have to like a legitimate Model Y competitor. Because right now in the US, there's not a lot of great alternatives. Model Y is pretty hard to beat, at least on paper. You know, maybe you don't like the design, maybe you prefer the exterior of the Ioniq 5 or the EV6. But as far as how good the software is, how good the range and efficiency is, and the charging ecosystem, the charging experience, you know, you don't have to fumble around with an adapter and you don't have to download an app. You can just plug it in and it starts charging. It's very, very difficult to beat the Model Y. But I think the Rivian is going to be our closest bet because it does beat the Model Y in some regard. It beats it in utility. It beats it in sport. That's SUV. That's the first two letters in sport utility vehicle. I think Rivian will be more sporty, and I think it will have more utility. It's got that flat roof, which is better for mounting things like the roof rack. And Rivian's doubling down on their self-driving capabilities, and they've said they're going to put their next generation autonomy platform in the R2. So there's a good chance by the time the R2 comes out, it's going to have hands-free, at least highway driving, maybe not city driving. Tesla probably will have an edge in that regard. But I think most everyday consumers care more about driver assist features on the highway than they do in cities. Um, the FSD take rate, at least based on user data, is not all that high, which means about 80%. That's the data they won't share here. Tesla's happy to say, with artificial intelligence and hardware, cumulative miles driven with FSD, they're coming up to 6 billion miles. Tesla vehicles not using autopilot technology. Oh, miles driven before an accident occurs. I see. Um, some people, I think, have reported issues with how Tesla reports this because they don't consider it an accident unless the airbags go off. It's like, there could be an accident where the airbags don't go off. But anyway, Tesla will not share data on how many people are not using FSD. How many people buy a Tesla and never use FSD, even if it's given to them for free? I would be willing to bet they don't share that data because it wouldn't make them look all that good. At least the crowdsourced data is suggesting that about 80% of people buying a Tesla are not using full self-driving. So maybe to that 20%, it's very important, but I think Rivian is catching up in a way. And Tesla, because I'm of the belief that with these self-driving systems, we can get really close to, level 4 where you don't have to pay attention. But that final 5% is near impossible to iron out and get right. Which if that's true, that means that Tesla is going to spend years at that, 95% of driving we have figured out. But then years go by and you've only increased your autonomous miles by 0.1%. You're still at 95.1. Rivian has all this time to go from 20% self-driven, 40% self-driven, 80% self-driven. And there will be a point where I think they all kind of start matching each other in features. I agree. I think the R2 looks really interesting. Um, I wish them all the best because I think this is the product that will make them a profitable business. They're barely able to break a profit on the R1 vehicles, but I just think they're too fancy, they're too expensive, and they're not easy to make profitable. But this is part of the reason I wanted to join Tello was because they were at least focusing on a vehicle that was relatively more affordable. Um, so many companies wanted to start out with $70,000 cars or $90,000 cars, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, but it's just too out of reach for the everyday person. So I wanted to help market and help get investors on board for a company that was focusing on a vehicle for the masses and a vehicle that would be more affordable and fully take advantage of what an all-electric vehicle can be. And I think that what GM is doing with the Hummer is like the opposite. It's like, no, the point of an EV is that it can be more efficient. It doesn't have to be that massive. There's not a big inefficient engine anymore. Like you can redesign the way the vehicle is. And while I think the R2 is going to be popular, and I do think it will, basically now that they've secured that Department of Energy loan and they've received state funding to secure jobs, that means that the state sees them as a vital part of the economy. Um, this will make it to market, basically. I think Rivian has the capital on hand to start ramping up production and deliveries of the R2. And I think that's going to be the real brand eye-opening moment for them is when not just a few thousand people start buying Rivians, but when tens of thousands of people all start buying Rivians at scale. That's going to be a real light bulb moment for the brand, and I think that's where the margins are probably going to be. However, it will probably start out with an expensive trim. I don't think they're going to launch next year at 45K. No, it's going to take them probably several months, potentially up to a year before they're able to actually start offering the $45,000 R2. They will probably start with the tri-motor, which could easily be a $70,000 vehicle, but the ramp up is slow, right? It takes some time, so that's why they want to secure those margins. So a lot of the vehicle will be the same as that $45,000 Rivian. Probably have the same suspension, probably have the same software, probably have the same interior build quality, same headlights and same windows and everything. So it's not going to be this crazy air suspension R1T, R1S. It's not going to be as massive as those vehicles, but it'll be more efficient. It'll have the same battery pack, and they'll just put in a tri-motor so that they can justify that high-end cost. Maybe throw in a couple of extra badges so that people feel like, okay, I'm getting one of the first R2s, because those R2 vehicles, the first ones, are going to be sought after. Like, people are going to want to get them to make content with and to make videos with, and a lot of people probably going to be trading in their Model Ys because they're fed up with Tesla, or they're fed up with the full self-driving claims, or they're fed up with Elon or whatever. So it'll be technically a little cheaper than what an R1 costs. It's pretty hard to find an R1 for 70K. But this one will be like an SUV variant. It's a bit smaller than an R1S, but still, it's not a truck. SUVs are pretty popular, and you can car camp in the back, of course, and everything. And you'll have the amazing performance of a tri-motor system for the price of a base model R1T, which doesn't have crazy performance or horsepower. But I'm looking forward to see. Oh, is it possible if the R2 has its own launch series tri-motor, it could potentially be gross profitable? I would be shocked, because early in the production processes, it's rarely profitable. But I'm sure, similar to Tesla starting out with the Foundation series Cybertrucks, Rivian will probably start out with a tri-motor R2, and they'll work their way down. If they can get a full year's worth of people buying R2s, they'll just keep making them. They're only going to stop making the R2 once they run out of people willing to buy one, I think. I don't think they're going to just, if there's a line of people willing to buy the tri-motor, they're not going to just, let's just lower prices. They're going to see how long they can get away with it. That's what Tesla does, and I think Rivian's going to do the same. Lionel says, Tesla disappointed you, so all EVs are bad. Wait, what? Rio says, FSD timelines, false promises, claim that Tesla traction control slips, autopilot does the same. If it slips, autopilot disengages. He said this 5 years. False efficiency claims in the cold, false degradation claims, false cost of operation. I feel like most of this comes down to Elon, but using superchargers equals no cost savings. It depends on the circumstance, but there are instances, yes, but I wouldn't say every instance. Leading to disappointment. FSD barely uses regen, slams on brakes, running the argument. I've used FSD. It used quite a bit of regen. Nothing Tesla claims materializes into real-world benefits. My mom, who originally got the car, will never own an EV again. Wow. Well, I don't think anybody should buy what they don't want. So if your Tesla experience was bad, then yeah, don't buy another one. But to say that none of Tesla's claims materializes, I think is a little bit of an overstatement. Like the heat pump, they put a lot of time into that and developing that so that the cold weather wouldn't have as big of an effect on range. And that's been proven. That's been tested. They've done it with vehicles without heat pumps and with heat pumps, and the ones with heat pumps lasted longer. They were more energy efficient. It's just science. It's just data. Tesla vehicles that put an emphasis on aerodynamics were able to achieve better efficiency, like the refresh Model 3. They took that in the real world, and they did a 70-mile-per-hour highway range test, and it beat its EPA estimate. It was not a Tesla certified test. This was a third-party, independently verified range test. The EPA said it would get 360 miles of range, and it got over 380 miles of range. So Tesla claimed that the new Model 3 was more efficient, and it was not a new motor. It was not a new battery pack. It was purely just aerodynamics. So they made a claim, and they delivered on it. Same thing with new supercharger speeds. I think it's a bit of an overstatement to say none of their claims materialize, and I would easily argue that yes, most of their autonomy claims don't materialize. But I think Tesla does a lot of different things between energy storage and solar and vehicles, and they're doing pickup trucks and sedans and semis. There's a lot of things they do, And there's a lot of things that they overpromise on, but to act like these things that they overpromise on means that you can't trust anything they say. I feel like you're writing out a lot of really impressive accomplishments. And I think there's way too much Tesla Elon association. If you've been following Elon for the last few months, you know that Elon has basically done nothing at Tesla over the last quarter, which is why I'm kind of curious if he's going to be on the earnings call. Um, he hasn't said if he definitely will or won't be, but Elon tweeted and said nothing about the new Model Y. Um, and there's been very, very little evidence of Elon involvement, in my opinion. There's there's over 100,000 people that work at Tesla all across the world. There's people working in Europe. There's people working in China. There's people working to bring these vehicles to the Philippines now. It's a best-selling vehicle. Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. Best-selling vehicle, period, in the United States. They're creating jobs for people. They're creating products that people love and enjoy. I have family members and friends that despise Elon that love their Teslas, and they can accept that those are two separate things. Um, so I just think associating things that you don't like about Elon with "I can't buy a Tesla," you're kind of missing out. You're kind of depriving yourself of some quality stuff. If you would rather just not go electric at all, then sure, yeah, just buy what you want. That's what I'm in favor of, and I talk about what I like and what I want on this channel because I know I'm pretty good at articulating my opinion, I guess. But um, everything Tesla Elon promised has come true except for FSD. Well, even that might be a too general. We still have the Roadster. The Roadster's awkward chapter in Tesla's history, but heat pump only works when you're driving. The car just sitting there loses about 10% range just sitting there while I'm at work. Heat pump wouldn't change that in cold. Just data, just claims. Uh, I don't know. It depends on the instance. You don't have to run the heater when your car's sitting at work. Uh, you might. Yeah. Heat pumps don't work as well in the extreme cold, but that doesn't mean that they are better than they are worse than resistive heaters. Um, but yeah, it's buy what you want. Buy what's good for you. But I don't go looking around complaining on gas car channels. You know, I don't go to the YouTube channels that talk about gas vehicles and comment how much I hate them. No, I watch the channels that talk about things I like because those are interesting to me. I don't think it's healthy for anybody. It's not good for your mental health or your physical health to be constantly clicking and watching on videos of things that you don't like, which is why I tend to not go into politics because most politics are things we don't like. um, will Aptera and Tello have shared or similar battery chemistry, components, or materials? Uh, well, they're just really partnering on the solar stuff. They don't have a partnership with the battery pack. They just so happen to both use 2170 cells. That's just the most common battery cell dimension. But I'm pretty confident. I think I can say this without getting in trouble. They're not using the same supplier. Aptera has already inked a deal with LG, so LG is supplying the 2170 cells for the Aptera batteries. Tello, I don't believe is using LG. I won't say who they're using because I'm unsure if we've announced that yet. Um, but it's not LG. I can say that much. However, I do know for a fact that there's nothing proprietary or special about the cells. Tello has a custom proprietary battery pack design. It's the way the pack is assembled, but it's not at the cell level. So we could use Tello could use 2170 cells from anybody. I think they have a supplier picked out, but it doesn't have to be just that supplier. We could switch to a different supplier. We could switch to LG if we wanted to. There's nothing inherently against that, but like I said, batteries have all come down a lot in price lately. Um, so there's not a huge advantage to going with one cell over another. Um, literally, well, both of my sons have Model 3, which are getting old, and they may be considering because they may be reconsidering because of Elon's politics. Yeah, I don't want to get too into that. I'm not happy with the way he's been either. I don't think he's a Nazi personally, but I don't want to turn the stream into that. I don't I don't want to turn into us debating whether or not one guy who barely does anything at Tesla is or isn't a Nazi. That's just not a fun topic for me. I want to talk about the vehicles and I want to talk about the state of the company. I guess it's cool to see that they plan on volume production for the Cybercab in 2026. I still really wish they would sell one with a steering wheel and pedals, but I wish we would get more information on these more affordable models because they've been talking about that for the last 3 quarters now, almost a year. It's been almost a year of talking about more affordable models, and I'm like, what are they? I don't think Elon is acting rationally. I also don't think he's a Nazi. I think there's way too many people that are just extreme on one end. Elon has done nothing wrong, or Elon is literally Satan. That's most of the narratives I read online. I'm just like, that he's neither of those things, but still, I don't want this to be the Elon channel because honestly, he's not worth our time. He doesn't do that much at Tesla anymore. Let's be real. He's spending all of his time on the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, and on Twitter. That's where most of his time is designated to. And maybe if he has time left over, SpaceX. Oh, yeah. In my free time, I work on reusable rockets, as a side gig. So there's so many other things that are on the top of his list of priorities. Tesla is not high on the list. So he's barely doing anything at the company at this point. I'm a fan of Tesla. I'm not a fan of Elon. Let's put it that way. I love the supercharger network. I love the vehicles. I love how efficient and capable they are. I love their mindset on reduce complexity, reduce part count. Um, I love that they're attempting all of these amazing things with autonomy. And all of the great things about Tesla are the achievements of thousands of talented, hardworking people. There's thousands and thousands of diligent, hardworking people that are passionate about Tesla's mission and about making quality products that people enjoy and trying to keep you on the road, all electric road trips, and trying to get the dated, inefficient, deadly, toxic combustion engine off the road. And I'm all in favor of that. And I think it's silly to just write off all of the talented hard work from all these people because there's one guy that barely does anything at the company that you don't like. I just think that's silly. I personally, at the end of the day, I think you should just buy the product that fits your needs best. If the Model Y fits your needs best, but then you don't like one guy at the company, so you're going to buy a more expensive product that's not as good. I just think, okay, I mean, it's your money. You do what you want, but I think that's a little silly. Regardless of what I think, though, there are definitely a lot of people that will use the marketing and brand power as a reason to switch. I'm not even trying to say they're switching to Rivian because they hate Tesla. It's just Rivian, with their brand image and with the way RJ has presented himself in interviews and made himself available to so many content creators, which is amazing. Uh, Rivian can be a brand I think that a lot of people are proud to rock. It's not so much that they hate Tesla, but if you want to rock a brand, you feel like the Rivian brand kind of stands for something really cool. With the Tesla brand, it's a little distorted. We might have reached a point where people are like, I don't know if I want to rep the Tesla merch everywhere I go. I might feel weird about that because I can already understand worrying about how your friends or family may treat you because you own a Tesla. That's already happened to me to a certain extent. I pick up I pick up a family member from the airport, and because I'm in the Model 3, that immediately sparks an Elon discussion. Like, so what do you think of Elon? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about Elon. I just like the car. That's all I cared about was the car. I liked Elon when he worked a lot on the car. Now he's not really working on the car anymore. For a while, he was all about the Robotaxi, and then he was all about the robot. Now it doesn't even seem like he's about the robot. He's just about the government. Like, okay, shoo, go do your government efficiency. Good for you. Have fun. But this isn't the Tailosive government efficiency channel. This is the Tailosive EV channel. I want to talk about electric vehicles. So if you wear Tesla merch everywhere, you might get a lot of political conversation started. If you wear Rivian merch, you might get some more curiosity questions, or Aptera merch. Honestly, I've done that several times. I think my wife went into work wearing Aptera merch today. And I think it sparks such a fun follow up. If you could rep a brand, and a lot of people buy vehicles based on the brand. That's why the BZ4X is selling so bizarrely well. The BZ4X is just a terrible vehicle. You can't DC fast charge it more than twice in a day. It's not cheap. The range is bad. The build quality is not that great. But because it's a Toyota, so many people freaking buy that thing. I see the BZ4X everywhere, and I'm like, why? Why did you buy that? And people go, well, Toyota. Toyotas are good. I heard Toyotas last long, so I'm sticking with a Toyota. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. I would buy a Prius before I buy the BZ4X. I'm sorry. Such a bad EV. There's nothing good about it, in my opinion. Everything about it is lackluster. Um, Brand power. It's strong. It's strong. And I think that's something Elon's underestimating. Maybe he just doesn't care because he feels so rich he can do anything he wants. But Rivian, I think, has shown they care a lot about brand power. They care about how they're perceived. I show you guys something that just blew me away? I did this the other day. I wasn't doing it for a video. I just went to the R2 page because I was thinking, my wife is interested in a more utility focused vehicle in the future. I don't know. She's open to a Rivian if the money makes sense. I'm not sure if we would buy one new. It's probably not as efficient as I would like. I tend to be more of an efficiency guy. I'm more of a sedan guy, if I'm being honest. I would rather buy a new Model 3 because of how efficient it is, or I would rather have an Aptera more than anything, if I'm being honest. But I was like, okay, for the family vehicle, if my wife wants something with more storage capacity, let me just admire the R2 if I could see myself in it real quick. And there's this little play button when you scroll over it. Hopefully this doesn't get taken down, but if I click play, there's this video, and they start out the R2 page with a guy bringing home or picking up a young child. I think what they were getting at was from the hospital, so it was like his firstborn child was just born, and then it's like a montage of them taking their young child to all these adventurous places outdoors, off-roading and camping in the R2. And I was like, what a great way to like build family as the emphasis around this vehicle. Is like, this vehicle is going to be like, in a sense, a member of the family, like this is going to be there. We want a vehicle that's safe and reliable and quiet so that you can take your newborn home from the hospital, and then as they grow you can take them to more adventurous. And I was like, what a great introductory video, like, what happens in contrast, what happens when we go to the Model Y page? Just curious. I actually don't know. If we go learn more about the new Model Y, deliveries begin in March. Okay, if we scroll down, 320-mile range, 154 miles in 15 minutes. That's not great. FSD supervised compatible. We redesigned it. It's quiet, it's efficient. It's got lighting. Here's the interior. There's no people. At least up here. Here we are. Expansive storage. Here are two people. They put suitcases in the back. Okay. There's some kids, I guess. But it's not so much telling a story. It's kind of just like, here is the product. You don't need to drive. This will all be self-driven. Plug it in. It's just a little different. The narrative, the brand power is Tesla, I think, is all about the specs. Tesla is just about, our specs are the best. And for some people, including myself, that's oftentimes enough. I'm just kind of like, yeah, I want high range, fast charging, and efficient because I know it'll cost less to drive. That's what I love. I honestly, I'm not in the market right now because my current Model 3 is still great. I love driving it, and I've driven it a lot this week. It's a great vehicle, So I'm not in a rush to replace it or anything. Also, because like I said, I want to see how LFP ages. I want to drive the LFP until the wheels fall off. I want to find out if it's really a 1,000,000 mile battery. So I'm just trying to put as many miles on that car as possible. But heaven forbid, if I was in an accident and the car was totaled and I had to get a brand new Tesla, I'd be getting one of these babies. This thing is so cheap, 35 grand before gas savings. I don't know why they still include gas savings. They know I own a Tesla. Why are they showing me gas savings? But like, ooh, it looks so clean. My wife prefers the look of the 3 too. She just wishes it was a hatchback. That's why the only reason she doesn't want the 3 is because it's got a trunk, and I'm like, it doesn't bug me as much. I love the interior. I've driven the refresh Model 3 several times now, and it feels so smooth, such a good ride quality. And you can get like 380 miles on the highway with this thing. It's incredible. And it charges 250 kilowatts, so you could recharge really fast too. It's an amazing vehicle. That's the one I'd be buying. Um, unless this was out. It's not out yet. Keep trying to get on the list. Oh, I found like the old configurator. That's interesting. They've changed it since then. Yeah, there we go. This is my dream vehicle though. It's like one that I don't have to plug in at all and it just charges itself. This would be cool, but sadly not ready yet. They got to find that whale investor. I've never wished I had $60 million more in my whole life. Yeah, Aptera's got a lot of great brand power because when you rock Aptera merch and people ask, "What is that? What's that logo or what's that company? Like what's this design on your shirt or on your hat?" You get to talk about the car. You get to talk about a solar powered vehicle, a potentially grid independent vehicle, depending on how you drive it. And that's so much more fun to talk about. Be like, it's this really interesting, unique design that's very eye catching. This like carbon fiber vehicle with solar cells and 3 wheels and record low energy consumption. Um, it's awesome. It's fun to talk about. Whereas I feel like when you rock Tesla merch everywhere, you got to talk about whatever Elon did last week, and I'm like, oh god, don't want to. Hasael says people need to learn to separate a person from their work. I don't agree with everything Zuck, Bezos, Cook, and Pichai have done. Doesn't mean I'm going to switch all my socials, browser, and phone. Yeah, exactly. You'd have to, if you took an issue with the CEO of every brand that you interact with, you'd basically have to use nothing. Because I hate to break it to you, but most CEOs are flawed because they are people. And oftentimes, people, when they have a lot of power and they have a lot of money, they do selfish or corrupt things. It just tends to happen. So, that's just inevitable. I'm not saying all CEOs are bad. Obviously, there's perfectly reasonable and good ones. Like RJ Scarin. No, sorry. I'm all gushing over the Rivian now. I just I'm so excited for the future of EVs, Like there's just so many good ideas out there that could radically change the way we use our vehicles and the way we travel. And it's fun to daydream, and it's fun to also see change and to see these vehicles come to life, you know. It's fun to see them go from render to drivable model that you can sit in. Um, let's see. I've heard conflicting information on the refresh 3 steering wheel buttons. I'm not sure if they're still capacitive or not. Apparently, if they are capacitive, they are so good at being capacitive that a lot of people think they physically click. Yeah. I tried it. I thought it was fine. I don't care what Tesla does, whether it's gear stock or buttons. I just think they should pick one and stick with it. I'm getting annoyed that Tesla is keeping the blinker stock on the Model Y, but then there's no stocks on the Model S, X, or 3 or Cybertruck. I'm like, so now when I switch between vehicles, I gotta retrain my brain on where the blinker is. It's like, pick one. Just pick one. They should have probably just stuck with buttons. But then at the last second, someone was like, but the Model Y is our best seller. That might confuse people. Like, okay, if you're gonna have stocks, have them on all the vehicles. Okay. Don't have them on some of them and not others. I just pick one. Also, from what I've heard of the new blinker stock on the refresh Model Y, I don't think I'll like it because it's not the exact same stock as the outgoing Model Y. The gear stock, where is it? I have a picture of it somewhere. The earnings call will start in about 5 minutes, people. It's almost time. We're almost there. Um, where is it? It's in here. Okay. Ah, they covered it up. So here's the confusing thing. The blinker stock doesn't move as far as the old stock. And there's no more button on it because your wipers and your headlight button are still on the wheel. Whereas on my Model 3 or on the outgoing Model Y, the high beams and well, that is a weird effect. I'm getting like a wiggle here. The high beams and the wiper are on the stock. So here they've like split it. So now it's not the same as the Model 3. It's not the same as the old Model Y. It's just another thing you got to relearn. And I'm like, okay, I could get behind ditching the stocks because you think buttons are the future, but to then have a combination of buttons and stock, I'm like, ah. Um, I'm glad you aren't someone who jumps to the wildest of conclusions and decides to sell their car like one of your peers on YouTube. No, that would be stupid because my resale value has tanked. But to be fair, I did not buy my car with the intent of reselling it. Even if you go back and find my videos from 2022 when I place my order and when I take delivery, at no point did I say I'm buying this car just to hold me over for a couple of years until I buy another new car. No, I believe I said in all those old videos, I'm the kind of guy that buys a vehicle and then drives it until it will not drive. Like I wanted to get that Model 3, especially once I heard about the LFP battery. And I was like, I'm just going to keep driving it until it doesn't work. I am not buying cars as a form of investment. I think that's a horrible idea. You should stick with real estate and mutual funds if you are looking for investment. Cars depreciate. If it's got wheels, it's going to depreciate. So I would highly discourage anybody buy a vehicle with the intent to flip it or with the intent of, well, this one cost me a little bit more, but it'll hold its resale value. I'm like, you're going to lose. You're always going to lose unless it's some rare collector's item car, but those are pretty rare, especially with EVs. Um, I use Apple because it's awesome, but I don't agree with being a total flamer. I don't stop using their products because of their CEO. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I've heard complaints from both sides of the political spectrum with Tim Cook. Either that he's too left-leaning or that he's too supportive of the right. Like you can find dirt on anybody. So if we try playing this game of only buy from companies with ethical CEOs, you'll be left as a caveman in the woods. Um, Thought Up Terra said they were testing the ABS system. Yeah, they're testing all kinds of stuff. I was actually just talking with Chris today a little bit. Um, let's see. I hate the buttons on my X, so I just don't use my turn signal all the time. Really? That's interesting because I test drove the refresh Model 3 and I got used to the buttons really fast. Oh, look at that. I will admit, as time has gone on, um, I have gotten more and more open to the button approach. I think there's definitely instances in which it is worse. Don't get me wrong, but I think there are more instances in which it is better than it is worse. Um, and I think the interior looks super clean. I love the clean look of no stocks. Like same with the Cybertruck. I have a couple issues with the Cybertruck, just the size and the fact that there's no midgate. I think other than that, it's darn near. Well, it's definitely not perfect, but it's darn near dream vehicle territory for me. If it had a midgate, I would be way more open to it, and if it was smaller. But I just love the steer-by-wire, and I love the interior. It's such a beautiful interior. Look at that with the lighting and everything. It's so clean. It's so fun to drive too. I've driven one several times now. I'll just when I have a chance, I'll go to a Tesla center and test drive one if there's one available. So fun steer by wire. It's a shame it's in such a big vehicle. I love steer by wire, but I don't love big vehicles. So it'd be cool if we could get steer by wire in a little vehicle, which Tello is talking about doing. Um, they're kind of doing a hybrid approach right now, but it's more so that they're optimized for self-driving. But I think the earnings call is about to begin. Let's see. We better get ready. I bet the music's starting. What do I think about the Scout motors? There's nothing about them that are that unique to me. I just think it's a uglier Rivian with a gas generator, and I hate gas, so I don't. I have a hard time getting excited for Scout because there's nothing intrinsically very unique or different about it. It's just another EV. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me what you think is the standout like separator with the Scout EVs. If I hit play, oh, it's still on YouTube. They don't do it on X. Okay, I'll keep that low, and I'll shut up once the stream starts. So Tesla missed earnings largely, huh? Nah, not as bad as some were expecting. They had more cash flow than anticipated. Um, so that's good. But yeah, the margins were not as good as they had expected. But how's the stock looking after hours? It's actually up after hours. So that's good. The market's not having an extreme reaction either way. It's not going very far up or down. It does look good, the Scout. I mean, eh. To each their own. I'm happy for you if you like the look of the Scout, but personally, I don't love it. I just think it's very traditional. And I'm into EVs because I'm tired of the status quo. I'm tired of the way things are, and the Scout to me reminds me of the way things are. It's like, no, this is the way vehicles have been. Let's just do that more. Let's just keep the buttons, keep the gas generator. Mm, I I don't know. There's probably a market for it. I acknowledge and accept that there is a decent number of people that like what Scout is planning. Oh, is it starting? No, it's still music. Just it got quiet for a second. The kids whose parents drove them around in Scouts back in the day might be interested. Maybe, but I have an old friend who used to drive a Rivian, and he remembers the Scout Motors brand way back when it was around, and he said, I don't remember them that fondly. They weren't like amazing vehicles. They were just another brand that went under. Um, he doesn't recall there being this great, amazing, loyal following of Scout. He was like, I don't get what all the hype is. They died off because not enough people liked them, right? Uh, wasn't enough demand for them. Yeah, I think the Rivian R2 is far more interesting and exciting to me than anything Scout's shown. An affordable, all electric, smaller SUV that's targeting the Model Y demographic because that's the best selling car in the world. Yeah, that's compelling to me. Also, I love what Rivian does with their interior. Nothing about the Scout interior. The Scout interior just looks like buttons. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, buttons cost money. In case you're curious why Tesla doesn't like to have tons of buttons or Rivian doesn't like to have lots of dials and buttons everywhere. It costs more. So you're paying for it. I would rather just have a software optimized vehicle with a minimal interior, but the scroll wheels on the R2 look really, really cool. So I'm more about like, let's get the cost down because EVs, even the cheap ones are too expensive, you know. We act like 35 grand for a Model 3. That's a really good price. And that's still like out of reach for a ton of Americans. It'd be cool if we were getting down into the 25s and $15,000 prices. That would be really cool. And I hope we can get there someday, but it's going to take some time. Um, yeah, I saw a picture of the Silverado interior. There's so many buttons. I know it's atrocious, but they can probably justify it because they're using those exact same buttons across all their gas vehicles too. Um, some people like buttons, in which case, congrats. You can buy a Scout, but I would just you can aftermarket buttons so easily is my issue. So like buying a whole different vehicle because it has more interior buttons to me seems silly. Just because you can buy aftermarket buttons for Teslas and customize them to do whatever you want. You can put them wherever you want in the interior. So if you're really that in love, what's that company called? Sexy Buttons or whatever. Um, I've seen all kinds of customizations you can do. So when you have a clean, minimal interior, it keeps the price of the vehicle down, and then it gives the end user more customization and control. So I tend to prefer a more minimal interior, but that's just me. Not everybody's like me. I get it. If everybody was, oh, I think we're starting.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tesla's fourth quarter 2024 Q&A webcast. My name is Travis Axelrod, the head of investor relations here at Tesla, and I am joined today by Elon Musk and Vaibhav Taneja and a number of other executives.
Elon's there.
Our Q4 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. During the question and answer portion of today's call, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Please use the raise hand button to join the question queue. Before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks. Elon?
Thank you. So in summary, in Q4, we set a record and delivered vehicles at an annualized rate of nearly 2 million a year. So congratulations to the Tesla team on excellent work achieving record production and deliveries. Model Y was the best-selling vehicle of any kind for 2024. That's worth noting. Not just the best electric vehicle, the best vehicle of any kind on Earth, number one, was Model Y. We're staying focused on maximizing volumes and obviously doubling down, or I don't know what. Really, I was going to say doubling down on autonomy, but really it's like autonomy is like 10xing things, frankly. Doubling is not even enough. We made many critical investments in 2024 in manufacturing AI and robotics that will bear immense fruit in the future, immense. Like it's, in fact, to such a scale that it is difficult to comprehend. And I've said this before, and I'll stand by it. I see a path. I'm not saying it's an easy path, but I see a path to Tesla being the most valuable company in the world by far. Not even close. Like maybe several times more than. I mean, there is a path where Tesla is worth more than the next top 5 companies combined. There's a path to that. I mean, I think it's like
I can't help it.
An incredibly, it's like a difficult path, but it is an achievable path. So
$80 quadrillion. Yeah, that's us.
To autonomous vehicles and autonomous humanoid robots. So our focus is actually building towards that. And that's what we're laying the ground. We laid the groundwork for that in 2024. We'll continue to lay the groundwork for that in 2025. In fact, more than lay the groundwork, actually, so we'll be building the structure. We're building the manufacturing lines, and I'd like setting up for what I think will be an epic 2026 and a ridiculous 27 and 28. Ridiculously good. That is my prediction. As yet, very few people understand the value of full self-driving and our ability to monetize the fleet. Some of these things I've said for quite a long time, and I know people have said, well, Elon's the boy who cried wolf like several times, but I'm telling you, there's a damn wolf this time, and you can drive it. In fact, it can drive you. It's a self-driving wolf. For a lot of people, their experience of Tesla autonomy is like, if it's even a year old, if it's even 2 years old, it's like meeting someone when they're like a toddler and thinking that they're going to be a toddler forever. But obviously they're not going to be a toddler forever. They grow up. But if their last experience was like, oh, FSD was a toddler, it's like, well, it's grown up now. Have you seen it? It's like walks and talks. You
said that really toddler was going to drive 6 years ago, though.
And it's difficult for people to understand this because human intuition is linear, as opposed to what we're seeing is exponential progress. So that's why my number one recommendation for anyone who doubts is simply try it. Have you tried it? When's the last time you tried it? And the only people who are skeptical are those who have not tried it.
Lies.
So
lots of people who use it every day.
A passenger car typically has only about 10 hours of utility per week out of 168. a very small percentage. Once that car is autonomous, my rough estimate is that it is in use for at least a third of the hours of the week. So call it 50, maybe 55 hours of the week. And it can be used for both cargo delivery and people delivery. So even, let's say, people are asleep, but you can deliver packages in the middle of the night or resupply restaurants or whatever the case may be, whatever people need at all hours of the day or night. That same asset, the thing that is these things that already exist with no incremental cost change, just a software update, now have 5 times or more the utility than they currently have.
Till it hits a pothole.
I think this will be the largest asset value increase in human history. Maybe there's something bigger, but I just don't know what it is. And so people who look in the rearview mirror are looking for past precedent, except I don't think there is one. So, but you know, but like the reality of autonomy is upon us. And I repeat my advice: try driving the car, or let it drive you. So now it works very well in the US, but of course it will over time work just as well everywhere else. Yeah.
It turned on the wrong side of the road recently. Did you see that?
So we're working hard to grow our annual volumes. Our constraint this year, our current constraint is battery packs this year, but we're working on addressing that constraint. And I think we will make progress on addressing that constraint. And then things are really going to go ballistic next year, and really ballistic in 27 and 28. So, yeah. So a bit more on full self-driving. Our Q4 vehicle safety report shows continued year-over-year improvement in safety for vehicles. So the safety numbers, if somebody has supervised full self-driving turned on or not, the safety differences are gigantic. And people have seen the immense improvement with version 13, and with incremental versions in version 13, and then version 14 is going to be yet another step beyond that is very significant. We launched the Cortex training cluster at Gigafactory Austin, which was a significant contributor to FSD advancement. And we continue to invest in training infrastructure at our Texas headquarters. So the training needs for Optimus humanoid robot are probably at least ultimately 10x what's needed for the car, at least to get to the full range of useful roles. You can say, like, how many different roles are there for a humanoid robot versus a car? A humanoid robot has probably 1,000 times more uses and more complex things than in a car. That doesn't mean the training scales by 1,000, but it's probably 10x. Now you can do this progressively, so it doesn't mean like Tesla's going to spend like $500 billion in training compute, because we will obviously train Optimus to do enough tasks to match the output of Optimus robots.
500 billion. Where did he get that number?
And obviously, the cost of training is dropping dramatically with time. So, but it is like it is one of those things where I think long-term Optimus will be. Optimus has the potential to be north of $10 trillion in revenue. Like it's really bananas. So then you can obviously afford a lot of training compute in that situation. In fact, even $500 billion of training compute in that situation would be quite a good deal. Yeah. The future is going to be incredibly different from the past, that's for sure. We live at this unbelievable inflection point in human history. So, yeah. So, the proof is in the pudding. So we're going to be launching unsupervised full self-driving as a paid service in Austin in June. So,
Whoa!
I've talked with the team. We feel confident in being able to do an initial launch of unsupervised, no one in the car, full self-driving in Austin in June. We already have
Pretty specific.
Teslas operating autonomously, unsupervised full self-driving at our factory in Fremont, and we'll soon be doing that at our factory in Texas. So thousands of cars every day are driving with no one in them at our Fremont factory in California. They will soon be doing that in Austin and then elsewhere in the world, the rest of our factories, which is pretty cool. And the
Pretty
cars
cool.
aren't just
Yeah, that's great.
driving to exactly the same spot, because obviously it all want to collide at the same spot. The cars are actually programmed with what lane they need to park into to be picked up for delivery. So they drive from the factory end of line to their destination parking spot to be picked up for delivery to customers. And they're doing this reliably every day, thousands of times a day. It's pretty cool. Like I said, the Teslas will be in the wild with no one in them in June in Austin. So what I'm saying is, this is not some far off mythical situation. It's literally, 5-6 months away, 5 months away, type of thing.
I hope everyone else at Tesla heard about this
while we're
June timeline.
stepping into putting our toe in the water gently at first, just to make sure everything's cool. Our solution, our solution is a generalized AI solution. It does not require high precision maps of a locality. So we just want to be cautious. It's not that it doesn't work beyond Austin. In fact, it does. We just want to put a toe in the water, make sure everything's okay, then put a few more toes in the water, then put a foot in the water, with safety of the general public and those in the car as our top priority.
That's ambitious.
With
That's exciting
Optimus,
to me.
Obviously, I'm making these revenue predictions that sound absolutely insane. I realize that, but they are. I think they will prove to be accurate. Yeah. Now with Optimus, there's a lot of uncertainty on the exact timing, because it's not like a train arriving at the station for Optimus. We are designing the train and the station and in real time while also building the tracks. and so they're like, why didn't the train arrive exactly at 12:05? I'm like, we're literally designing the train and the tracks in the station in real time so you're like, how can we predict this thing with absolute precision? It's impossible. The normal internal plan calls for roughly 10,000 Optimus robots to be built this year. Will we succeed in building 10,000 exactly by the end of December this year? Probably not. But will we succeed in making several thousand? Yes, I think we will. Will those several thousand Optimus robots be doing useful things by the end of the year? Yes, I'm confident they will do useful things. The Optimus in use at the Tesla factories, production design 1, will inform what we change for production design 2, which we expect to launch next year. And our goal is to ramp Optimus production faster than maybe anything's ever been ramped. Meaning, like, aspirationally, an order of magnitude ramp per year. Now, if we aspire to an order of magnitude ramp per year, perhaps we only end up with a half order of magnitude per year. But that's the kind of growth that we're talking about. It doesn't take very many years before we're making 100 million of these things a year. If you go up by, let's say, a factor, by 5x per year.
It's insane.
insane. Not 50%, 500%. So, these are big growth numbers. But we do need to. This is an entirely new supply chain. It is entirely new technology. There's nothing off the shelf to use. We tried desperately with Optimus to use any existing motors, any actuators, sensors. Nothing worked for a humanoid robot at any price. We had to design everything from physics first principles to work for a humanoid robot, and with the most sophisticated hand that has ever been made before, by far. And Optimus will be able to play the piano, and be able to thread a needle. I mean, this is the level of precision no one has.
You could get a machine to sew and play piano.
So it's really something special. So my prediction long term is that Optimus will be overwhelmingly the value of the company. Regarding energy, back to Earth. Earth to Elon. Can you come back here for a minute? Okay, back to Earth. Energy storage is a big deal, and will become. It's already super important. Will become incredibly important in the future, and it is something that enables far greater energy output to the grid than is currently possible, because the grids are the vast majority of the grid has no energy storage capability, so they have to design the power plants for very high peaks, and assuming that there's no energy storage. Once you have grid energy storage and home-based energy storage, the actual total energy output per year of the grid is dramatically greater than people think. Maybe it's at least double. This will drive the demand of stationary battery packs, and especially the grid scale ones, to insane, basically as much demand as we could possibly make. We have our second factory, which is in Shanghai, that's starting operation, and we're building a third factory. So we're trying to ramp output of the stationary battery storage as quickly as possible. Now, there is a challenge here where we have to be careful that we're not robbing from one pocket to take to another pocket, because for a given gigawatt hours per year of cell output, we have to, does it go into stationary applications or mobile applications? It can't go into both. So we have to make that trade-off. But overall, the demand for total gigawatt hours of batteries, whether mobile or stationary, that will grow in a very, very big way over time. So in conclusion, 2025 really is a pivotal year for Tesla. And when people look back on 2025 and the launch of unsupervised full self-driving, true real-world AI that actually works, I think they may regard it as the biggest year in Tesla history, maybe even bigger than our first car, the Roadster, or the Model S, or the Model 3, or Model Y.
It'll be catching up with
I think it probably will be viewed 25 as maybe the most important year in Tesla's history. There is no company in the world that is as good at real-world AI as Tesla. I don't even know who's in second place. You say, who's in second place for real-world AI? I would need a very big telescope to see them. That's how far behind they are.
They're in China. Deep seek.
All right.
Great. Thank you very much, Elon. And Vaibhav has some opening remarks as well.
Yeah, I'll talk about things on Earth. As Elon mentioned, in Q4, we set records in vehicle deliveries and energy storage deployments in an uncertain macro environment. We were able to grow auto and energy storage volumes both sequentially and on a year-on-year basis. For this, I would like to thank the efforts of everyone at Tesla to make this a reality and our customers who helped us achieve this speed. Coming into the fourth quarter, our focus was to reduce inventory levels in the automotive business, and we accomplished that by ending the quarter with the lowest finished good inventory in the last 2 years. This was a result of offering not only attractive financing options, but also other discounts and programs which impacted ASPs. While we saw volume growth in almost all regions that we operate in, we hit a new record for deliveries in the Greater China market. This is an encouraging trend since we grew volume in a highly competitive BEV market. On the automotive margin front, we saw a quarter-over-quarter decline, primarily due to lower ASPs and due to the recognition of FSD-related revenue in Q3 from feature releases. Our journey on cost reduction continues, and we were able to get our overall cost per car down below $35,000, driven primarily by material costs. This was despite increased depreciation and other costs as we prepare for the transition to the new Model Y, for which we recently started taking orders in all markets. All our factories will start producing the new Model Y next month. While we feel confident in our team's abilities to ramp production quickly, note that it is an unprecedented change, and we're not aware of anybody else taking the best-selling car on the planet and updating all factories at the same time. This changeover will result in several weeks of lost production in the quarter. As a result, margins will be impacted due to idle capacity and other ramp-related costs, as is common in any launch, but will be overcome as production is ramped. We will be introducing several new products throughout 2025. We are still on track to launch a more affordable model in the first half of 2025, and we'll continue to expand our lineup from there. On a dollar-for-dollar basis, we believe we have the most compelling lineup today compared to the industry, and it will continue to get better from here. As always, all our products come with the best software in the industry, autonomy features, and capable of full autonomy in the future. And despite the premium experience, the total cost of ownership is close to mass market, less premium competitors. Energy storage deployments reached an all-time high in Q4 and resulted in, but declined sequentially. This was a result of growth came from Megapack and Powerwall. Both businesses continue to be supply constrained, and like Elon mentioned, we're trying to ramp up production with Megafactory Shanghai coming online this quarter onwards. While quarterly deployments will likely continue to fluctuate sequentially, we expect at least 50% growth in deployments year over year in 2025. Gross profit and margins in the service and other business was up year over year, but declined sequentially. This was the result of higher service center costs and lower profit from used car business. The businesses within service and other primarily support our new car business, especially through their impact on total cost of ownership. Therefore, while we manage them to be positive on a GAAP basis, we do not expect similar margins as the rest of the business. There's a lot of uncertainty around tariffs. Over the years, we've tried to localize our supply chain in every market, but we are still very reliant on parts from across the world for all our businesses. Therefore, the imposition of tariffs, which is very likely, and any reciprocity will have an impact on our business and profitability. Our operating expenses grew both year over year and sequentially. The biggest driver of the increase was R&D as we continue to invest in AI-related initiatives. The remaining increase came from growth in our sales capabilities and marketing efforts from referral program. For 2025, we expect operating expenses to increase to support our growth initiatives. It is important to point out that the net income in Q4 was impacted by a $600 million mark-to-market benefit from Bitcoin due to the adoption of a new accounting standard for digital assets, whereby we'll take mark-to-market adjustments through other income every reporting period going forward. Our free cash flow for the quarter was $2 billion, and despite CapEx increase of over $2.4 billion in 2024, we were able to generate free cash flow of $3.6 billion for the year. CapEx efficiency is something we are extremely focused on. While we have invested in AI-related initiatives, we have done so in a very targeted manner to to utilize this spend to get immediate benefits. The build out of Cortex was accelerated because of the actually helped accelerate the rollout of FSD version 13. A cumulative AI-related capex, including infrastructure, so far has been approximately $5 billion. And for 2025, we expect our capex to be flat on a year-over-year basis. In conclusion, like Elon said, 2025 is going to be a pivotal year for Tesla. There are a lot of investments which we've made and will continue to make in this coming year, which will set the pace for the next phase of growth. And it is something which now I'm getting out of Earth. It is going to be out of this world. And we just are putting the right foundation. And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you very much, Vaibhav. Now we will move over to investor questions, and we'll start with say.com. The first question is unsupervised FSD still planned to be released in Texas and California this year? What hurdles still exist to make that happen? You addressed the Texas piece, I think, already. So
yeah, I'm confident that we will release unsupervised FSD in California this year as well. Yeah. In fact, I think we will most likely release unsupervised FSD in many regions of the country, of the US, by the end of this year. Like I said, we're just putting a toe in the water, then 3 toes, then a foot, then leg, then make sure everything's cool. And we're looking for a safety level that is significantly above the average human driver. So it's not anywhere like much safer, not like a little bit safer than human, way safer than human. So the standard has to be very high, because the moment there's any kind of accident with an autonomous car, this immediately gets worldwide headlines, even though about 40,000 people die every year in car accidents in the US, and most of them don't even get a mention anywhere. But if somebody scrapes a shin with an autonomous car, it's headline news.
We want to avoid that.
Yeah. So it's really the only thing holding us back is an excess of caution. But people can suddenly get a feel for how well the car would perform as unsupervised FSD by simply allowing the car to drive you around your city and see how many times did you have to intervene, not where you wanted to intervene or were a little concerned, but how many times did you have to intervene for definite safety reasons. And you will find that is currently very rare, and over time, almost never.
Great. Thank you very much. The next question is, are there any discussions with other auto companies about licensing FSD?
Yes. What we're seeing is, at this point, significant interest from a number of major car companies about licensing Tesla full self-driving technology. What we've generally said is the best way to know what to do is take one of our cars apart, and then you can see where the placement of the cameras are, what the thermal needs are of the Tesla AI inference computer. That's better than us, sending some CAD drawings. And then we're only going to entertain situations where the volume would be very high. Otherwise, it is not worth the complexity. And we will not burden our engineering team with laborious discussions with other engineering teams until we obviously have unsupervised full self-driving working throughout the United States. I think the interest level from other manufacturers to license FSD will be extremely high once it is obvious that unless you have FSD, you're dead.
Yeah. Great.
My pickup
Thank you very
truck
much.
doesn't drive itself.
The next question is Optimus now mostly design locked for 2025 production?
Optimus is not design locked. So when I say we're designing the train as it's going we're redesigning the train as it's going down the tracks while redesigning the tracks and the train stations.
Yeah, we've already answered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's rapidly evolving. It's rapidly evolving in a good direction. it's pretty damn amazing, actually. The team's doing a fantastic job. We really have by far the best team of humanoid robotics engineers in the world. And we also have all the other ingredients necessary, like, because you need a great battery pack, you need great power electronics, you need great charging capability, you need great communications, got to have Wi-Fi and cellular connectivity. And of course, you need real-world AI, and then the ability to scale that production to huge levels. So you have to design for manufacturing. The things what other companies are missing is they're missing the real-world AI, and they're missing the ability to scale manufacturing to millions of units a year.
I think that is an underappreciated thing, that industrialization of design is a whole different thing than making a design.
Yeah, prototypes are trivial, basically. Prototypes are easy, production is hard. I've said that for many years. The problem is that there's those who've never been involved in production or manufacturing somehow think that once you come up with some eureka design that you magically can make 1 million units a year. And this is totally false. There needs to be some Hollywood story where they show actually the problem is manufacturing. I've never even heard of one. It just doesn't fit the narrative. The Hollywood thing is it's like some lone inventor in a garage goes eureka, and suddenly it files a patent, and suddenly there's millions of units. But listen, guys, we're missing really 99% of the story. 1% is, that old saying of 1%, like a product is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. The Hollywood shows you the 1% inspiration but forgets about the 99% perspiration of actually figuring out how to make that initial prototype manufacturable, and then manufactured at high volume such that the product is reliable, low cost, consistent, doesn't break down all the time. And that is 100 times harder, at least, than the prototype.
Then you have to get it there, deliver it back.
Yeah, you're going to meet all these regulations, and there's a zillion regulators around the world. It's very difficult.
Great, thank you. The next question is also Optimus related. When will Tesla start selling Optimus, and what will the price be?
Well, for this year, we expect to just close the loop with Optimus being used internally at Tesla, because we obviously can easily use several thousand humanoid robots at Tesla for the most boring, annoying tasks in the factory, like the tasks nobody wants to do, where we have to beg people to do this task, and then it's like the robot's totally happy to do the boring, dangerous, repetitive task that no humans want to do. And that's also actually some of the easiest use cases for us to have Optimus do things like load the hopper, for say in body line, if you're transporting pieces of sheet metal to the robot, which is already the robot welding line for the body, and you just have to nonstop take things out of a from one fixture to another fixture. And it's a very boring job. That's the kind of thing what Optimus could do.
The guy who runs around and dumps all the weld studs in the bins.
Yeah, there's a ton of boring jobs, tedious jobs, dangerous, slightly dangerous jobs that's perfect for Optimus. So we expect to use Optimus for those tasks at our factories, and that'll help us close the loop for improvement this year. It's really with production version 2, which I think launches sometime next year. I'd like it to be the beginning of next year, but maybe it's more like the middle of next year. And then we have to just with a production line that is designed for on the order of 10,000 units a month versus 1,000 units a month. So when you design a unit when you design a production line for 1,000 units a month, it takes you a while to actually reach anywhere close to 1,000 units a month. When you design, and for any given production output, it takes you a while to actually reach its potential. But the current line that we're designing is for roughly 1,000 units a month of Optimus robots. The next line would be for 10,000 units a month. The line after that would be for 100,000 units a month. And I think probably with version 2, that is a very rough guess, because there's so much uncertainty here, very rough guess that we start delivering Optimus robots to companies that are outside of Tesla in maybe the second half of next year, something like that. But like, so this is such an exponential ramp that it'll go from no one's receiving humanoid robots to these things are coming out like crazy.
So we can't build enough.
Well, we're always going to be in the we can't build enough situation. Demand will not be a problem, even at a high price. And then, as I said, like once we're at a steady state of above 1 million units a year, I think the production, I'm confident at 1 million units a year that the production cost of Optimus will be less than $20,000. If you compare the complexity of Optimus to the complexity of a car, so just the total mass and complexity of Optimus is much less than a car. So I would expect that at similar volumes to, say, the Model Y, which is over 1 million units a year, that you'd see Optimus be, I don't know, half the cost, or something like that. What the price of Optimus is a different matter. The price of Optimus will be set by the market demand.
Great. Thank you very much. The next question is, what is the status on mass production of the Tesla Semi, and how will it impact revenue at scale?
I can take that one. So we just closed up the Semi factory roof and walls last week in Reno. That schedule was great with the weather in Reno. You never know what's going to happen, but we're prepping for mechanical installation of all the equipment in the coming months. The first builds of the high volume Semi design will come late this year in 2025 and begin ramping early in 2026. But as we've said before, the Semi is a TCO no-brainer. Like, it's really similar to Optimus. It's going to be, set by how much people pay, and then it as a total cost of ownership, it's much cheaper than any other transportation you can have. So at that point, when we're at scale, it will meaningfully contribute to Tesla's revenue. Well, I think it's difficult to say how much. Anything you want to add, Elon?
No, I mean, I do think that Tesla Semi, again, with autonomy, is going to be incredibly valuable. That we actually have a shortage of truck drivers in America. That's one of the limiting factors on transport. People are human, so they get tired, and sometimes, there's. I have a lot of respect for truck drivers because it's a tough job. But because it's a tough job, there's not that many people that want to do it. And there's actually fewer, I believe, if my understanding is correct, there are fewer people entering truck driving as a profession than are leaving it.
Yes.
So when you think, yeah, exactly. So when you consider, okay, there's more people leaving truck driving as a profession than entering it, well, we're going to have a real logistics problem as time goes by. So autonomy will be very important to meet that need. So like, yeah, it'll I don't know. It's a several billion a year opportunity, which I don't know in this context, is that these days does several billion a year matter? I think it does. Not nothing. It's probably, it's probably like a 10 billion a year thing. Yeah, it's $1 billion a month at some point, probably. But it's all this is going to pale in comparison to Optimus. So, yeah, $1 billion a month it's a lot, but it's not. It's going to be like 1% of Optimus or something,
Great. Thank you very much. We already covered the next question in opening remarks. So moving on, is it expected that Tesla will need to upgrade Hardware 3 vehicles? And if so, what is the timeline and expected impact to Tesla's CapEx? I'm going to refer to cost there.
They're really asking the tough questions, aren't they?
I guess we haven't stopped working on Hardware 3 yet. We are still making software releases. We released the 12.6 release. recently, which was it's like a baby V13. But it's a significant improvement compared to what they had previously. And people are still finding ways to distill larger models into smaller models. So we're not given up on hardware 3. We're still working on it. Just the releases will trail the hardware 4 releases.
Great. Thanks, Ashok.
Yeah, I mean, I think the honest answer is that we're going to have to upgrade people's hardware 3 computer for those that have bought full self-driving, and that is the honest answer, and that's going to be painful and difficult, but we'll get it done.
Upgrades for hardware 3.
Now
right
I'm
there.
glad that not that many people bought the FSD package.
Thanks, Elon.
I don't think he should have
The
said
next
that.
question, has Tesla given up on ramping their solar roof product?
No, we're sorry, Mike. Oh, Mike, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can take it. Yeah, solar roof remains a core part of the residential product portfolio, and it still remains where it draws a lot of customer interest despite it being premium products. We've worked on multiple iterations of engineering to make the product easier to install and distribute by reducing the SKU count. And more recently, rather than direct installation, we are focused on growth through our nationwide network of certified installers. And many of those, they've been installing solar roof with us for many years.
Yeah, that's actually turned out to be a much better way for is just let the roof, just supply product to the roofing industry. And especially when somebody's is getting a new roof anyway, or building a house from scratch. Obviously, this is by far the most efficient time to put in a solar roof, as opposed to putting a solar roof on a house where the roof still has 20 years of life. That's not economically sensible, but if it's a new house or the roof needs to be replaced anyway, then solar roof can make a lot of sense. And it is a premium product. It's like it's kind of like Model S, Model X or something. It's like it's a premium product. I think it looks really cool. And your house generates electricity, and if you combine it with the Tesla Powerwall battery, then you can be self-sufficient. So even if the grid turns off for several days, your house still works.
I can't believe we still have to explain how batteries work.
So it's like, I recommend anyone who can afford it, get the Tesla solar roof and the Powerwall. Your family's life might depend on it.
Get enough.
And just in terms of convenience, your kids are not going to yell at you because their computers don't work because the power went out and you can't charge your phone.
True story.
Actually happens.
Megapack makes the grid more stable, so it shouldn't go out.
You can't even pull anyone because your phone's out of juice.
Thank you very much. The next question was covered in opening remarks, so we will skip that. And the last question from say.com, what technical breakthroughs will define V14 of FSD, given that V13 already covered photon to control?
Well, we've gone a hell of a lot further than photons to output. We've been in sort of the nothing but nets situation, nothing but neural nets from photons to controls for a while now. We're just improving the neural nets. I guess we could get into some of the technical details to some degree. I have to say, I continue to be amazed by just how effective autoregressive transformers are at solving a wide range of problems. I mean, Ashok, is there anything you'd like to add there without giving away the sort of family secrets?
I mean, except for things we put on X already. So continuing to scale the model size a lot. We scale a bunch in V13, but then there's still room to grow. So we're going to continue to scale the model size. We're going to increase the context length even more. The memory is sort of like limited right now. We want to increase the amount of memory it holds, like to even minutes of context for driving. We're going to add audio to handle emergency vehicles better. Add like data of the tricky corner cases that we get from the entire fleet. Any interventions or any kind of user intervention. We just add that to the data set. So the scaling in basically every axis, like training compute, data set size, model context, and also all the reinforcement learning objectives.
Great. Alrighty. With that, we will move over to analyst questions. So just as a reminder, you will need to unmute yourself to ask your question. The first question will be coming from Daniel Roska from Bernstein. Daniel, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Daniel from Bernstein. Elon, Tesla's share price clearly already includes quite a few of the anticipated benefits you talked about today, yet realizing what you call kind of difficult but achievable will take some time. What are you pushing the Tesla executive team to do differently now to accelerate the innovation in order to realize the value you described for the company?
Well, I mean, we're working on perfecting real-world AI and making rapid progress week over week, if not month, certainly month over month, but often week over week. I spend a lot of time with the Tesla AI team and the Tesla Optimus team. I mean, I go where the problem is essentially. Like, not, if something's, this is, unfortunate. Sometimes I don't talk to a Tesla executive and like, hey, we don't see you very often. I'm like, that's because your stuff is working awesome. Your stuff is working really great. Unfortunately, I don't see them very often because I go where the problem is. So, we're not where the problem is. Like, what's the greatest challenge that lies ahead? So, obviously, there are many challenges with Optimus. It's a hard problem to solve. Many challenges with vehicle autonomy, but we're making rapid progress in both. Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
sounds like you've got a conviction that the pieces you need, right, are in place.
Yeah.
If we kind of go 12 months down the line and we look back, and you had some of those, but maybe what are the kind of 2 or 3 KPIs that would tell you that you're on track and it's going the right way, and the pieces you've put in place are the right pieces, right? That's kind of what I'm looking for. Or other way around, where would it be off most likely in your mind that you say, hey, I need to go back there and I need to change something to enable the team better?
Well, I mean, I think the predictions that I'm making here are going to be pretty accurate. And it's worth noting, because sometimes people say, "Oh, Elon's always late." Well, actually, no. The problem is that the media reports on when I'm late, but never reports on when I'm early. So sure, I'm optimistic, but I'm not that optimistic. There are many cases in the past where
When
I
are you
actually have been
early?
early. Such as completion of the Shanghai factory, or in fact, factory completion has generally been ahead of schedule, not behind. So
That's not really up to you, though. That was the Chinese government.
yeah,
they're fast about everything.
But I like I said, I'm very confident we'll have released unsupervised full self-driving, fully autonomous Teslas in Austin and several other cities in America by the end of this year. That's probably everywhere in America next year, and everywhere in North America at least. I think in terms of next year, our constraint, I think it's likely to be just regulatory. Like Europe really has, for example, Europe is a layer cake of regulations and bureaucracy, which that really needs to be addressed. There's this joke like America innovates, Europe regulates. It's like, guys, there's too many refs on the field. I mean, for example, for us just to release supervised full self-driving in Europe, even though it works really well, we have to go through a mountain of paperwork with the Netherlands, which is our primary regulatory authority. Then the Netherlands presents this to the EU in, I think, May. And there's like this big EU country committee. We expect it to be approved at that time, but there's nothing we can do to make that May happen sooner. In fact, nobody seems to do. I guess all the countries would have to somehow vote in some way to have it happen sooner than May. Otherwise, it won't happen sooner than May. So then when is unsupervised FSD allowed in Europe? I'm like, May next year, maybe? I don't know. Well, I have to find out when the EU is meeting again. Sometimes it's a 12-month cadence, sometimes a 6-month cadence. Then in China, which is also a huge, gigantic market, we do have some challenges because they won't they currently allow us to transfer training video outside of China. And then the US government won't let us do training in China. So we're in a bit of a bind there. So like a bit of a quandary. So what we're solving that is by literally looking at videos of streets in China that are available on the internet to understand, and then feeding that into our video training so that publicly available video of street signs and traffic rules in China can be used for training, and then also putting it in we've got a very accurate simulator, and so it will train using sim for bus lanes in China. Like bus lanes in China, by the way, one of our the biggest challenges in making FSD work in China is the bus lanes are very complicated. And there's like literally like hours of the day that you're allowed to be there and not be there. And then if you accidentally go in that bus lane at the wrong time, you get an automatic ticket instantly. So it's kind of a big deal, bus lanes in China. So we have to put that into our simulator, train on that. The car has to know what time of day it is, read the sign. Anyway, we'll get this solved. But I think we'll have unsupervised FSD in almost every market this year, limited simply by regulatory issues, not technical capability. And then unsupervised FSD in the US this year, in many cities, but nationwide next year. And hopefully we have unsupervised FSD in most countries by the end of next year. That's my prediction with best data that I have right now.
Great, thank you very much. The next question will come from Adam Jonas at Morgan Stanley. Adam, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Thanks, everybody. So Elon, you've said in the past about Lidar, that for AVs at least, that Lidar is a crutch, a fool's errand. I think you even told me once, even if it was free, you'd say you wouldn't use it. Do you still feel that way?
Yes.
Care to elaborate, or just I have another question?
Look, we even have a radar in the car and we turned it off.
I got it. All right. So you're still, yeah. People think you're crazy, but for not.
Look, I mean, obviously humans drive without shooting lasers out of their eyes. I mean, unless you're Superman, but like humans drive just with passive visual. Humans drive with eyes and a neural net and a brain neural net. So sort of biological, so the digital equivalent of eyes and a brain are cameras and digital neural nets, or AI. So that's the entire road system was designed for passive optical neural nets. That's how the whole road system was not designed, and what everyone is expecting that's how we expect other cars to behave. So therefore, that is very obviously the solution for full self-driving as a generalized solution for full self-driving, as opposed to the very specific, neighborhood by neighborhood solution, which is very difficult to maintain, which is what our competitors are doing.
I got it.
Yeah.
I mean, Lidar doesn't work in the fog, guys.
Yeah, Lidar has a lot of issues. Like I don't have some like the SpaceX Dragon docks with the space station using Lidar, that a program that I personally spearheaded. I don't have some fundamental bizarre dislike of Lidar. It's simply the wrong solution for driving cars on roads.
Right. You understand how Lidar works. I get it.
Literally designed and built our own red Lidar. I oversaw the project, the engineering of the thing. It was my decision to use Lidar on Dragon, and I oversaw that engineering project directly. So I'm like, we literally designed and made a Lidar to dock with the space station. If I thought it was the right solution for cars, I would do that, but it isn't.
Yeah. All right. Just as a follow-up, at CES, you said, I'm paraphrasing, that any AI will be able to do any cognitive task not involving atoms within the next 3 or 4 years. And that would imply, Elon, that before the end of President Trump's term in office, that AI would be moving pretty damn quickly into the physical world, into the world of photons and atoms. And I'm thinking, given your work with the administration, how confident are you that the U.S. will have the manufacturing and the supply base to make good on your excitement about physical AI by the by latter this decade? We seem pretty vulnerable right now. I've seen you tweeting about, or sorry, Xing, excuse me, Elon, about China. Freudian slip, about China making more drones in a day than the U.S. makes in a year, and all the entanglement of the supply. So what has to happen in the U.S. to make that possible? What's your message, and what can you do about it, and what's relevant for Tesla shareholders? Thanks, Elon.
Well, at Tesla, obviously, we think manufacturing is cool. SpaceX, we think manufacturing is cool. But in general, for talented Americans, they need to beyond my companies, beyond me, and the people and my teams here. In general, we need to make manufacturing cool again in America. And I honestly think people should move from law and finance into manufacturing. That's my honest opinion. We have too much. This is both a compliment and a criticism. We have too much talent in law and finance in America, and there should be more of that talent in manufacturing. I mean, at Tesla, we're making sure that we can continue to manufacture our stuff, even in the event of geopolitical tensions rising to very high levels.
Great. Thank you very much. The next question will come from Pierre Ferragu at New Street. Pierre, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Hey, thanks, guys, for taking the question. So I have a question, Elon, on deploying robotaxis in June in Austin. So that's great news. And I was wondering if it means I can, drive down to Austin in June and try unsupervised by myself with my car.
Good question.
Or it's going to be more like your fleet testing it.
It'll be our fleet testing it. So that's our sort of toe in the water. We'll be scrutinizing it very carefully, make sure it's not something we missed. But it will be, autonomous ride hailing for money in Austin in June, and then as swiftly as possible other cities in America. And I expect us to be operating, doing unsupervised activity with our internal fleet in several cities by the end of the year. Then it's probably next year when people are able to add or subtract their car from the fleet. So, kind of like Airbnb, where you can sort of add or subtract your house or your guest room. You can say add it to the Airbnb inventory or don't add it to the Airbnb inventory. If you're traveling for a month, you can, or whatever the case may be, you can let other people use your house, and then you can. Anyway, so that's probably next year, because we want to just make sure we've ironed out any kinks. And a lot of it is, it's not like we're not splitting the atom here. It's just a bunch of work that needs to be done to make sure the whole thing works efficiently, that people can order the car. It comes, it's the right spot, does exactly the right thing. All the payment systems work. The billing works.
Okay. But then, so my follow-up question would be, I have a Tesla, I have FSD, and I have to keep my eyes on the road all the time. It's super boring because I don't really need to intervene anymore. And but the really annoying thing is that I can't just check my emails. And so, are you working also on introducing, a kind of free unsupervised where I could be eyes off and I would be able to check my email and would just need to, with a 5-second notice, have to go back and keep an eye on what's happening? Or is that something you're working on as well? Because it feels so close with V13 that I wonder if it's something we could expect for this year. It's a very selfish question I ask for myself, to be honest.
Yes. We need to be very confident that the probability of injury is low before we allow people to check their email and text messages. In fact, right now we're in this perverse situation, which you may have encountered yourself, where people will actually go to manual driving to check their text messages.
Yep.
So the computer doesn't yell at them, and then put it back on autonomous mode once they've checked the text messages, which is obviously less safe.
Significantly less safe.
Significantly less safe. Significantly less safe than just letting people check their text once in a while without the computer yelling at them.
Yeah.
But we just want to be cautious about that at the advent of that. We're in this sort of, neither here nor there, but just for, I think it's not for many months longer. But yeah, we're in this perverse situation where people will turn the car off autopilot so the computer doesn't yell at them, check their text messages while steering the car with their knee and not looking out the window.
And there, like Elon said, right? If you have any problems with the system, and when people are not looking, that is a dangerous thing. And that's what we're trying to avoid. It's the capability is getting there, but it's not fully there. That's why he was using the term of dipping our toe in the water, then getting comfortable, then keep going.
Anyway, it's not far off. But we want to prove to ourselves, and obviously prove to regulators that the car is unequivocally safer in autonomous mode than not. We're not far off. So this is like low single-digit months.
To the safety aspect, we did publish our vehicle safety report today. And in Q4 was one crash for every 5.9 million miles driven, compared to a crash every 700,000 miles without autopilot.
Right. So we're getting to the point where it's an order of magnitude.
Yeah, it's like 8.5 tons safety. Right. So it's just about there.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Great. Alrighty, and our last question will be coming from Dan Levi at Barclays. Dan, feel free to unmute yourself.
Great. Good evening. Thank you for taking the questions. Elon, you've talked about the need for proliferation of sustainable transport in the past as part of sort of broader push to sustainable energy. Look, I know we've heard a lot about President Trump's plans to reverse the EV mandate, and I think there's a view that given regulation is a driver of EV uptake, this could slow EV uptake in the U.S. So what would be your view on the right policy in the U.S., given your comments in the past of the need to push for sustainable transport?
At this point, I think that sustainable transport is inevitable. I'm highly confident that all transport will be autonomous electric, including aircraft, and that it can't be stopped any more than one could have stopped the advent of the external combustion engine, the steam engine, or one could have stopped the advent of the internal combustion engine. Like even if you've been the biggest horse advocate on earth, you're like a horses are the way, not these newfangled automobiles. You can't stop the advent of the automobile. It's going to happen, and you can't stop the advent of electric cars. It's going to happen. The only thing holding back electric cars was range, and that is a solved problem.
Great.
And then, as a follow-up, in the past, Elon, you had made a comment that you'd be willing to sell cars at effectively no margin to get the cars out there. And there's a comment in the release today of the rate of acceleration of autonomy efforts does impact volume growth. So perhaps you could just talk about, with your efforts on FSD, how we should think about your desire to put more vehicles out in the market to take advantage of your tech advances?
So I'm not sure I understand the question. We have a lot of cars. I mean, we've got millions of cars out there.
So is your question, Dan, that how do we marry our future growth aspects with FSD?
And yeah, go ahead and unmute yourself, Dan.
Yeah, more so just how much more aggressively you would be willing to sell your cars versus in light of your improvements on FSD.
Well, right now the constraint we're trying to solve is battery production as opposed to demand. So now Q1 we've got this massive factory retooling for the new Model Y, for example. That obviously has a short-term impact on output.
He referenced the new Model Y. That's the first time.
In fact, we're talking that the executive team and I were talking about just before this call was how we've got to figure out how to increase total gigawatt hours of battery production this year, one way or another. That's the constraint on our output.
Great. Alrighty. And with that, I think we are all out of time for today. So thanks everyone so much for all of your questions. We look forward to talking to you next quarter. Thank you very much and goodbye.
All right.
Okay, call ended. I would say that was a bit more interesting than I anticipated. It was fascinating to actually hear that concrete of a timeline. I mean, how many times have we heard Elon say next year or by the end of the year? Now he's saying June in Austin, which is awfully specific. He said in shadow mode for employees, they already have. He claimed, I'm not sure if I believe him. He claimed they have thousands of vehicles that are in an autonomous mode, unsupervised. Well, maybe they're supervised by employees, but they're testing it already, and they plan in June to have a paid Robotaxi service where nobody's driving the car. Interesting, they didn't mention which vehicles they'd be using. I assume the Cybercab is probably not ready, although they technically have 20 of them, right? So if you're trying to start slow, there was no weird salutes. Thank God. Any day we don't have Elon making weird gestures. I gotta be, geez, Drew, don't make weird gestures. Yeah, no weird salutes. It was audio only. Not a single investor asked him to step down. No, I think all the people that want him to step down have sold their stock, and all the people who would want him to stay in have lots of stock. So the fact that they all voted in favor of his compensation package is probably a good indication that he's not going to step down. He's probably he's not going to be kicked out of the company without a fight or I don't know. He could have been saluting the whole time. I guess that's true. Managed to catch the end of your stream. Can you sum up the highlights? Yeah, good to see you, Mike. Thanks for tuning in. I would say the best parts or most interesting statements were that they plan on launching unsupervised Robotaxi services in Austin, Texas in June. So that's a pretty big deal, in my opinion. Will they hit that timeline? Who knows? I would not be shocked at all if it ends up getting delayed, but Elon seems convinced that we are, I mean, it's January 29th. Elon seems convinced we are 4 to 5 months away from unsupervised Robotaxi rides. And he said they would be paid. I'm guessing that Cybercab is probably not ready yet to operate in that fleet, so it's probably just going to be some basic Model Ys. Maybe they put little plastic boxes around the steering wheel so people can't grab it and take over. Because if they do Robotaxis with the Model Y, even the new one, even if they use the refresh Model Y, they are not steer-by-wire. Which means if you got in the passenger seat of a Robotaxi and it's driving you around somewhere, you could grab the wheel and you would take over. You could fight the actual movement of the wheels. If they used a Cybertruck then they could deactivate the wheel. So you could reach over and grab the wheel or try to push the pedals and it wouldn't do anything. So I'm wondering if they're going to box out the driver's control. I guess they could probably easily remove it. They could just take a Model Y and pop the steering wheel off and take the pedals out. There haven't been any massive Cybertruck updates in the shareholder deck. I guess I can pull that up here. In the shareholder deck, it does say down here, not a big surprise. I think we already knew this thanks to the IRS website, but it says, we expect Cybertruck to be eligible for the IRA consumer tax credit, helping to improve affordability and access for even more customers. So if there's not any specific updates aside from that, I mean, if we go to the IRS webpage, you will see that both a all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive Cybertruck are listed as qualifying for the $7,500 credit. I'm pretty sure the only reason Tesla's not taking orders for them yet is they still have 2024 model year Cybertrucks that don't qualify for the credit, and they know they're not going to be able to sell those once they launch the 2025 Cybertruck, because those probably do qualify. So if I select Cybertruck here, oh yeah, they're still doing pretty big reduced prices though. Oh, not that big. Sorry. The gas saving, they always turn on that gas savings. Even after you refresh the page, they'll add it back again. So until Tesla is able to, look how many there are. Oh my God. There are so many Cybertrucks that are from 2024. Oh, look, they just added another one. I scrolled down and it grew. And they're all pretty cheap. They're all around 80 grand. And some of them have reduced pricing, some of which are not even demo models. They're just discounting inventory models because they can't sell them. Everybody's waiting for the tax credit. I know, we've come a long way, haven't we? I know, it was Mike in the Woods, usually during an EV stream, asking me, when are Cybertruck deliveries going to begin? I want to know. Oh, there's still Foundation Series. Wow, I haven't seen Foundation Series in a while. They're doing reduced pricing on Foundation Series, too. So you get free supercharging for life. Lifetime premium connectivity for $98,000. Yeah, it's still not a good deal. I'm sorry. $20,000 can buy a lot of supercharging. Why don't the new refreshes post Cybertruck all have steer-by-wire or 48-volt architecture? Is it because it's premature? I think it has to do with supply chain. From what I've learned from working with startups, you typically write contracts with your suppliers that sometimes stretch over many years. So Tesla probably has contracts with some of their suppliers that go many years out for 12-volt batteries and wires, and all that architecture is oh wow, that Cyber Beast is 105. I guess nah, that's still not a good deal. There's so many Cybertrucks available. But yeah, once you have a supplier on contract to provide you a certain number of wires or electronics, it would be very, very expensive to break that contract. So I'm guessing that the cost of implementing all of those new things would not be worth the expense. They wouldn't gain that much out of it. Basically, the smaller the vehicle, the lower the cost savings are between vehicles. So the Model Y is not that big. The Cybertruck was a brand new assembly line, so there were no existing suppliers for it. There were no existing contracts in place. So they had a decent motivation to start from scratch, do a 48-volt and all new steer-by-wire and stuff, because you have to order all new suppliers anyway, because it's a brand new vehicle, which is why I think, I could be wrong, but I think Tesla is only interested in bringing the state-of-the-art, steer-by-wire and 48-volt if it's a brand new vehicle like the Cybercab or like the Roadster, because there's no existing supply chain in place for those yet. So if you're starting from scratch, it makes sense to switch to those things. But if you're trying to recycle as much as you can under the hood, then it probably makes a lot of sense to just keep it the way it is. It is funny, though, that Tesla sent out these binders to all the legacy automakers, how to make a 48-volt architecture. And then like years later, they're updating their cars and they're still not updating to the 48-volt. It's like, so if you're mad at Ford for not doing 48 volts, shouldn't we be mad at you for the Model Y? if I'm paying $100,000+ I'm going for the Gravity. I agree. The Gravity is awesome. I can't wait to test drive one. I really want to see one soon. But yeah, I would not buy a Cybertruck. Even if I had $1 billion, I would not buy a Cybertruck. Not with that amount of difference. It's too not with that practicality, I guess. Got my $100 reservation back after the salute said since the night of this. They still let you have those deposits? Even though they've got tons of Cybertrucks in inventory? You'd be like, oh, I'm waiting for mine. There's trucks. It's just not cheap trucks. But I don't think there's going to be a giant, substantial drop in the Cybertruck price. I think it's going to continue inching down. I mean, right now, because of the inventory discounts, you can get a Cybertruck for like 78, maybe if you're lucky, $77,000. Oh yeah, with the referral credit. If you use a referral credit, you get like $77,000 for a Cybertruck. Once the tax credit becomes available, those vehicles won't be in inventory. The tax credit vehicles will be on the configurator, and everybody's going to want those. And those will start at 72,500. So it'll go from 77 to 72. So it's like, okay, it's $5,000 cheaper. Is that really going to move the needle? Maybe there's a big surge in orders for the rear-wheel drive, but I don't know. I get the impression a lot of people won't want it because it's a pickup truck. Usually people who buy pickups like all-wheel drive. At least the data from what I've seen, I have a rough idea on what configurations of the Tello truck people are ordering. Most people want all-wheel drive, even though you could save a lot of money going with a rear-wheel drive. These days, with battery pack prices falling, the motor contributes more to the overall price than the battery. So you could make a rear-wheel drive truck, but most people seem to prefer having all-wheel drive, and also the range hit. I feel like the range is already pretty low on the Cybertruck. A lot of people have complained about the range so far that I've talked to, even people who love the Cybertruck, like Gregor Truck, who I got to meet up with in Arizona. I asked him, I was like, this is really cool, but like, what's one thing you would change or one thing you wish Tesla would incorporate for the next generation Cybertruck, like the 2025 model year? And he very quickly answered the range. He said, like, yeah, I love the truck. It's beautiful. It's fun to drive. And I agree with him. It is pretty. And maybe pretty is not the right word, but it's eye-catching. I like the look of it. I just don't like the size of it. But he said, yeah, the one thing that is a bit lackluster is the range. A lot of people ordered the Cybertruck expecting 500+ miles because that's what Tesla said way back in 2019. And up until that point, they had just about always delivered on their range numbers. If they said, like when they unveiled the Model 3, they said it would have 215 miles of range. And pretty much all Model 3s have more range than that. And the Model Y, they said would have, I think the all-wheel drive model, they said would have 280 miles of range. It ended up having like 320 miles of range. The rear-wheel drive Model Y, they said would have 300 miles of range. It ended up having 330, 337, I think. So up until that point, Tesla had usually exceeded expectations with the range numbers. The Cybertruck was the first time that they really hyped up the range as being really good, and then it was 340 at launch if you got the ugly wheels, which weren't available. And then after the Foundation series, the range went down. So now the range estimate is 325 with the ugly wheels. If you spec up for the bigger wheels, it's even less than that. I forget what it is, but it's not great. So range seems to be a common criticism of the Cybertruck, and I have a hard time believing 314, I guess, isn't too bad for the all-terrain tire. The rear-wheel drive Cybertruck is supposed to go even lower, like 250-mile range. And I don't know. There's probably some demand. I think a lot of people who just want steer-by-wire would just want a truck with a bed, and they don't care too much about range, or they don't care too much about traction control or going off-road. They just want a truck for driving around town and stuff. I suppose there could be some demand for that one, but that's the only one I expect there to be a pretty substantial price drop on. They might slowly inch the price down on the all-wheel drive model over time, but I don't think they're going to just suddenly drop it $20,000. I think when the tax credit qualifies, it'll be 72. Maybe if they run out of buyers there, they lower it to like, with, you know, plus incentives, it's down to like 69, and then it'll be 65, and then it'll be 60, and it'll just depend on how they can ramp up 4680s and how quickly they can ramp. Hopefully more FSD transfers are offered. Yeah, I think they will be. What are my thoughts on Hardware 3 owners eventually needing an upgrade to get the latest gen FSD? I'm not surprised. I think we all kind of saw that coming. If you've been following FSD pretty closely, I think most people were aware already that, yeah, this vehicle was this computer was not meant to last this long, or FSD development has just taken so long that there's so many new things they're trying and new things they're doing. They weren't thinking of all the steps and how late it was going to be when they designed the Hardware 3 computer. So I'm not surprised, but I'm a little surprised Elon was willing to say on this earnings call, for those who missed it, Elon straight up said, I'm glad not that many people bought FSD. After years of telling people to buy it and to pay for it before the price went up, now he basically admitted on the call that, well, it's probably a good thing not many people bought it, because now we're going to have to pay to upgrade every Hardware 3 computer. And he said it's going to be painful and it's going to be hard, but we'll get it done. So I would say congratulations if you bought FSD and you have a Hardware 3 Tesla, because it probably, I think it means you're going to get a brand new computer in your car at some point. Who knows how long it'll be? It could take a year, it could take 2 years before they actually get around to it. But no, you're getting a free computer upgrade. It's going to be a brand new chip. You know, those computers, even people who bought a Tesla with Hardware 4, they wear out over time. They have a cycle life just like a battery. So, you know, a lot of these computer chips are not meant to last, you know, 10, 20 years. That there's been many instances of FSD computers going bad in people's Teslas. And if they're out of warranty, people have to pay, you know, $2,000 to get them fixed. But I think if I understand what Elon is saying correctly, it should be a free full self-driving upgrade, assuming you paid for FSD. So, Randy, good to see you. You paid for FSD, so you're getting a brand new computer in your 2018 Model 3. I'd say that's pretty cool. Like you'll have potentially a pretty old vehicle. I mean, coming up on, wow, it's crazy to think, maybe 7 years, 8 years. You could be coming up on an 8-year-old Tesla getting a brand new computer in it, and then it drives itself unsupervised. You know what'd be funny? I think Tesla will roll out unsupervised, but you will still be responsible for what the vehicle does. I don't think they're going to take liability for what it does, but I do think that they will roll out unsupervised to some regions. Sounds like, in my opinion, that was probably the biggest news of the day. Hardware 3 is getting free upgrades. Elon basically confirmed it. He said, this is the honest answer. In the moment, it's cool, but I feel cheated for my former self. Yeah, I hear you. I subscribed to FSD once back when it was $200, and I didn't even get on the beta. I just got enhanced autopilot for a month, and I paid $200, and I feel cheated for that. I can't imagine how you guys feel. Randy, some people out there paid $15,000. Many owners with Hardware 3 might add FSD soon, and then Tesla would need to upgrade. Yeah, I mean, there might be some people out there that hear this and decide, oh, I'm going to buy full self-driving so I can get a whole new computer. But really, I don't think so. I think if you have a Hardware 3 Tesla now without full self-driving, you've clearly been okay without it. You know, you've clearly been all right with it. Maybe some of those people have been paying month to month the subscription, who will now be interested in paying outright because it means they get a whole computer swap. But I don't think a lot, honestly. I don't think it will upgrade that many people. How long have the Roadsters been waiting so far? Technically 5 years. It was unveiled in 2017, but they never claimed they would deliver it before 2020. They said first deliveries were 2020. So officially 5 years late now, and there was no mention of the Roadster. Did they even have it in the shareholder deck? Yeah, they still don't know where they're making it. It just says in development. What a lie. Cybercab is coming. First, they were like, no, we got to do the Cybertruck first. And now we got to refresh the Model Y first. And now we got to do the Semi first. Now we got to do the Cybercab first. And I'm like, this is why I said for a while now, I think they should cancel the Roadster. I don't think it's worth the time or the money. It serves no purpose. You know, when they originally unveiled the Roadster, they were saying this will be the ultimate smackdown to gas cars. And I was like, okay, I don't think the Roadster will prove to any gas car lovers that EVs are the future anymore. We all know Rimac Nevera proved to everyone that an EV is faster than a gas car. We know that. A Roadster is just going to be adding to the noise. It's just another fast, expensive EV. I think they should refund everybody who placed an order for one and give them a nice fat discount on a Plaid or something, or a Cyber Beast. You know, just say like, sorry, we never made it. Here, have a Plaid half off. Thanks for the $50,000 loan for 8 years. That's what I think they should do. Yeah, those foundation buyers paid full price for them too, $250,000. Those guys should just get a free Plaid for waiting this long. I'm sure they're upset. I would be too. That's a lot of money. Yeah, they shouldn't have taken. They at least shouldn't have taken large orders for them. It would have been one thing if they took like $1,000 deposits for the Roadster, but they took freaking 50,000 deposits, and they still take them. That's the crazy thing. Look at this. You go up here, vehicles, way down here. It's still here. Still in the event, I think. Yeah, they still have a video powered by Vimeo. Remember Vimeo? And they will still take your money. You can reserve it right now. You have to pay $5,000 on the spot, but that's refundable. But then within 10 days, you have to wire a $45,000 transfer. And the reservation is not final until the payment is received. Jeez, what a joke in 2025. They still have all this. Oh my God. I wouldn't even take a Roadster. I would still take a Model 3. I don't think people will settle for a simple refund. They'll want interest on those 50,000 deposits. Yeah, I'm telling you, Tesla covered themselves. If you dig into the fine print, I'm sure Tesla has probably no legal obligation to give you anything. I'm sure they could legally get away with it. I wouldn't be shocked at all if it's just refunded. Sorry, we're done. It's just a donation page at this point. What are your thoughts on what the new models are and how will they solve the battery pack bottleneck? Personally, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. My guess about the more affordable models, I think I've done a video on it in the past, but just to recap that video, I think it's just going to be stripped down Model 3s and Ys. I don't think it's going to look that different. It's going to look the same as the current Model 3. Maybe they keep the old Model Y design around a while. So I think they're just going to take out, the ventilated seats, take out the rear display, and there's no RGB lighting. You'll have cloth seats and potentially a smaller battery pack. I think they might still qualify for the tax credit. They won't go back to LFP because that doesn't qualify, unfortunately. That would be ideal, though. I wish they would build more LFP batteries in the US. I think they're going to bring back what, in my opinion, is probably not a good idea. In the short term, it's good, but in the long term, the standard range battery packs that use 2170 cells, they don't age all that well, but you could probably build them for really cheap. You could switch from, right now, all the Model 3s and Ys are using like 80 kilowatt hour packs. You just take out a few modules, condense it down to 60 kilowatt hour packs. You do rear-wheel drive only, cloth seats, no ambient lighting, and still qualifies for the tax credit. And after the tax credit, it ends up being like 29,000 something. Yeah, rear-wheel drive only. That would be my guess on what the more affordable models are. I don't think there's a compact car in the works. I don't think there's a small hot hatch. That would be cool. I hope they do something like that. I hope I'm wrong, but from what I've heard from the people I've spoken with, I'm pretty confident it's not a radical redesign. I think it's mostly just going to be stripped down, boring looking Model 3. um, Does it talk about a smaller stripped Y? Yeah, I don't even think it'll be smaller. I hope it is. I love smaller vehicles. It'd be cool if they just shrunk the Model Y to be smaller than a Model 3 or something. I hope they do something like that. I always thought it would make a lot of sense if there was a way for you to reuse the Giga castings. Where is the freaking Model Y page? Learn. If you scroll down. Yeah. So there's obviously a couple Giga castings in the Model Y design. If you just smushed those castings together so that you didn't need entirely new Giga presses, you just had those two castings and there was just a bit less space between them. So smaller battery pack takes up less space, and then you can reuse a lot of parts. You could probably reuse most of the interior, the steering wheel, and the display, and the speakers would all be the same. The wheels would probably be the same as like a Model 3. You could have the same headlights as a Model 3. It just takes up less space, and the battery's a bit smaller. And maybe by being lighter weight, it's a tad more efficient. You probably have to tweak the door design and the side panels a little bit, but I feel like there's a way you could tweak the Model Y assembly line to make it smaller and cheaper, but that's not what's rumored. I think knowing Tesla, they're more likely to just swap out some parts, swap out the seats, swap out the center console so the rear passengers don't get a screen, swap out the ambient light bar with nothing. You just don't have one. And there you go. No light bars. Just keep it simple, keep it basic. Since Cybercab is in pilot production, we could see testing in Texas with Cybercabs. I mean, we could. We know they already have 20, but I don't think it's in pilot production, is it? I thought they just said in development. Yeah, look at that. Cybercab here. It's in development. It's not in pilot production. They did say preparation is underway for Cybercab lines at Giga Texas with volume production planned for 2026. So nothing really yet to indicate that there's going to be limited Cybercab production this year. But they are still saying first half of 2025 they want to have more affordable models there. We'll see. Do it. Cybercab, yeah. We'll probably have to wait before they start ramping that up, but I still think there's a decent chance the unsupervised robotaxis might be fairly geo-limited, which I have been saying for a while, to be fair. I said that last year. It's like, I wouldn't be shocked if they found a way to get robotaxis to work in a couple cities, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily the trillion-dollar business they think it is. Yeah, I think I did a video on the prices of Teslas in Canada. I know it's not good. It's not good. What do I think the smaller, cheaper platform currently on hold would be like? It's a hot hatch with giga castings. Yeah, that's basically what I said. The glass roof is not that expensive. It's actually arguably just as expensive to do a body colored roof from the people I've spoken with. Because if you do a body colored roof, you need more interior trim because you have to cover it up, and then you have more surface area to paint. So going with body colored roof is not necessarily more expensive. Whereas with a glass roof, it's just you've got to make the glass anyway. So you got the glass roof, you put adhesive on it, you slap it in place, and you're done. You don't have to paint. You don't have to get as much interior material stitched and adhered to the top. And it's also a safety feature. The glass typically holds up much better than a body color. Usually the body colored roof designs on cars, it's so flimsy. That's why you notice if you ever stood on the top of I don't know why you would have done this, but maybe you were a kid like me at one point. If you stand on top of a body colored car, it usually warps pretty easily. It might as well be tissue paper up there. It keeps you out of the sun and out of the rain, but most of the time it's just aluminum pretty thin up there, and then they cover it with some cloth or something. So they could, I guess, go with a non-glass roof like the Cybercab, but I don't think it really would save them all that much. I can see a two-door version of the Model Y with a standard steel roof. I would love that. I'm all in favor of a two-door. That's basically a Cybercab, is what you just described. But anytime I've suggested that in the past, everyone jumps down my back and says, "No, Drew, two doors don't sell that well. Tesla won't make a two-door because they're saying." I thought there were some very ambitious claims in the shareholder deck. They want to have more than 60% growth over 2024 production before investing in new manufacturing lines. That's a lot of growth. So if they're expecting to substantially grow deliveries this year, I'm not sure a two-door would cut it. For one, I don't even think it saves them that much money. But selfishly, I really want one. I would love for Tesla to just sell a Cybercab with a steering wheel and pedals, especially if it's steer-by-wire. I actually really like the Cybercab design. Can pull some photos up. It's just so simple. I like the idea of a cheaper, more efficient. It's Tesla's Aptera. I would still take an Aptera over this, but I'll take whichever I can get at this point. I keep begging Aptera to give me one, but I like how the doors go up, and I like how much storage space there is in the back. It's a cool look. It's simple. I actually like the Cybercab design a lot more than the new Model Y. I just feel like the design language is more consistent. It's more like, singular light bar on the back and singular light bar on the front. I feel like the new Model Y has like too many ideas going on at once. You've got some parts that are refresh Model 3, and then you've got some parts that are Cybercab, and it was like too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen. Like a bunch of people were trying to decide what to do at the same time. But I got to see the Cybercab in person. I don't know if you guys have, but it's it's a pretty impressive stance. I was actually surprised with how large it was. But it's not that much shorter than a Model 3. I think they could have gone more efficient with it. But I don't know. It still looks cool. I like smaller cars, and this is technically like the smallest Tesla, other than the Roadster, the original Roadster. But that doesn't have NAC, so it doesn't count. When 3 was revealed, there was talk about a base version with steel roof. There was talk, but they never made it. So this way, this is going to work is buy a Cybercab, and then Tesla runs a for-profit service using FSD unsupervised, and the consumer gets part of profit on their car. I still don't think even Tesla has figured out exactly how the finances work for a Robotaxi. I know they plan on operating their own fleet first, and then they're saying next year you'll be able to add your own vehicle to the fleet. But I think the guy asking the question was like, no, I don't care about adding my car to the fleet. I just want the car to drive itself, the one I have now. Let's see. It's only 2 seats. That's fine. Most of the vast majority of the time, my car is me and my wife. There's occasional times where I need more people, but I'll just use my Model 3 on those edge cases. The rest of the time, I would rather use as little energy as possible. I don't get why more people aren't as obsessed with that as I am. The whole reason we're moving towards electric vehicles, it's not because we just love batteries for no reason. The whole reason we're doing electric is because it's the most efficient. It's more efficient than gas. It's more efficient than hydrogen. It's more efficient than really any other form of transport you can think of. That's why most people believe electric is the future, is because it's basically impossible to get more efficient, at least for, a vehicle of that size that you want to go highway speed. Obviously, there's bikes and stuff, but even e-bikes are very efficient and much better than a gas-powered, motorcycle or anything like that. And yet, even though this whole transition to electric has begun, I'm still like, okay, what's the most efficient option? Yeah. When I have kids, I might have a different answer, but still, I think there'd be a lot of times where I drive by myself. There is now. When my wife goes to work, she's by herself. When I go to work, I'm by myself. I would say probably 80% of driving is done with 1 to 2 people in the car, just statistically. Um, on those times where you need your kid in the car, then you take the family vehicle. It could be the Rivian R2. It could be the Model Y. For me, it might be a Model 3. I love the Model 3. I think it's got plenty of space. We fit a lot of stuff back there. I think a lot of people just have this assumption that if the vehicle is smaller, it must not have a large amount of storage space. I fit a lot of crap in the Model 3, and I've car camped in it dozens of times. We put stuff in the front all the time. The sub trunk is huge. Like, if you just put a Model 3 and a Model Y next to each other, you'll notice they're not that different in size. The Model Y is a little bigger, but not much. But then it's like, how often are you loading stuff in the back vertically that high? Like, lengthwise, the Model Y is not that much longer. It's like a few inches. I just care about that type of thing because I love efficiency. Because I'm like, well, if we're going to go electric to be more efficient, shouldn't we focus on the most efficient options? That's why Aptera is mind blowing to me. And as far as Teslas are concerned, I think the Model 3 is easily the best one. Model Y obviously is very popular. I get why, because everybody loves their hatchbacks, but I love the 3 still. I think the new 3 is great. You get more range with the Model 3 for less money. It's faster, more efficient, so it costs less to own, costs less to operate. And in my opinion, still very practical. So that's why, in my opinion, the Model 3 is better. I disagree with you, Harvey. I'm sorry. You're entitled to your opinion. My wife disagrees with me too, by the way. My wife really wants a Model Y, but she hates the new one. that's the dilemma here. It's like we were waiting for a long time for the refresh Model Y. We were talking about it all last year. She was like, "Ooh, we could hold out for the refresh." And then the refresh Model Y came out, and she was like, "Never mind." She's like, "I don't like it. I don't want to." She's like, "I don't want to show up to work coming out of that thing. Like, I just don't want to be seen in it." To each their own. Some people love it. It's grown on me a little bit, but I still don't think it looks as good. Maybe it's because they love showing it with these silver wheels. I don't know about you guys, but I hate silver rims. It looks so much better with the arrow wheels. And they don't want to show it with the arrow wheels. There you go. There is a picture of it somewhere. It's just so much better looking with dark rims. Yeah, they barely have it. Yeah, there you go. Just for a split second. Yeah. Yeah, they always have the silver rims. I'm not a fan. I'm sorry. Seller on the R2. Yeah, it's hard. Tesla's got me good with the referral program. If Rivian put an Adventure Network charger closer to me, we could talk. We could talk about the R2, but I save so much money by using Tesla superchargers. And the R2 is not going to be cheap for a while. The Model Y has some like pretty decent inventory discounts, and my wife ultimately cares a lot about what's the cheapest option. We've been looking at used Model Ys. Some used Model Ys might be good, but yeah, she prefers this design. She mostly just wanted the refresh Model 3 to have a hatchback. She was like, why can't they just take the same designs of the Model 3 refresh and put that on the Y? That's what she wanted. She wanted the same headlight design and the same taillight design as the Model 3 refresh. And she didn't like that they added all the light bars and all that. I don't want to show up to work in it and be seen in it is great. Well, she just I tweeted out her opinions. She said it just looks dorky to her. She says it looks too like, I don't know, aggressive. Which I kind of see what she's saying. I think it might have a bit of a meaner look to it, which guys probably like, but I could see gals maybe not caring for. Um, yeah, Rivian does have a referral program, but Rivian don't have as many chargers. So I'm telling you now, I literally save thousands of dollars a year thanks to you guys being so kind to use my referral program, and I can use all those credits on free charging. And I drive a lot, so that's a huge selling point to stick with a Tesla for us. If Tesla got rid of the referral program and we had to pay for electricity anyway, then yeah, a Rivian would probably be more tempting. But right now, at least for the long haul, there's a tremendous cost advantage to sticking with a Tesla. Um, yeah, let's look at the rims again. The rims look at that. It looks so much better immediately with the crossflow wheels. I love the crossflow wheels, by the way. My wife doesn't. We watched a bunch of YouTubers do the in-person videos on the refresh Model Y. I'll probably go look at one here in a couple days. But my wife was watching YouTube videos from Out of Spec and from Tesla Raj and who's that other guy? Ken Tesla. There's a few different channels that Everyday Chris, is that his name? There's a few different channels that looked at the new Model Y in person, and we watched the videos, and my wife just cannot stand it. I cannot emphasize enough how much she hates the look. She hates the light bars, she hates the wheels, she hates the interior. She's just like, ugh, what did they do? It's funny. Can you still get referral credits on supercharging a Rivian even if you sell your Tesla? No. You only get the free charging on the Tesla. You don't get free charging on anything else. Tesla needs a two-seater smart car sized car that is maybe not the most practical thing, but gets an absurd amount of range. Well, that's the funny thing. The Cybercab is more efficient than a smart car. A smart car is so short that it's actually not very good aerodynamic wise at highway speed because it has that big drop off and it's a very steep approach on the front. So that's why it actually makes more sense to elongate vehicles a bit because it's better for aerodynamic flow. So that's why if you tried to make the most efficient vehicle possible, it would look like an Aptera. That's basically Aptera design is the answer to a question of how efficient can you make a vehicle. This is pretty much the limit, in my opinion. I've looked into companies or other organizations that are trying to make something more efficient than this, and it just doesn't work. Innovation. This is a cool website. I haven't used it in a while. I forgot they redesigned it all. Mission. But yeah, essentially, if you try to make a vehicle smaller than the Aptera, it doesn't have as much space for solar. And if you add more wheels, you have more rolling resistance and usually more weight. Because you have to have a whole different rear axle, and they save a lot actually, and they simplify a lot by just having three wheels. So that keeps the weight down, keeps the simplicity down, keeps the rolling resistance down. If you try to go to two wheels, then more energy is lost trying to balance it. That's what Lit Motors is trying to do, but I just don't see it as viable because I don't see how they can get the cost reasonably low. And also the seating. You limit I mean, a lot of people don't like the Aptera simply because it has two seats, even though I think that's enough for a lot of people. The Lit Motors vehicle is like one seat, or maybe you stuff someone behind you, but it's just so much less practical to have someone sit behind you. It doesn't feel as comfortable, and you can't hold a conversation as easily. And the gyros that spin on the Lit Motors to keep it balanced. It's like basically there's no way to make a highway speed capable vehicle with more efficiency than this. It's just not possible. I mean, maybe you could tweak this design a little to have a bit more powertrain efficiency. Like they're using an off-the-shelf motor because that's what they can afford. But if they switch the Aptera to a higher voltage architecture, like 800 volt, and they switch to a Lucid powertrain, they might shave off a little bit more, but it wouldn't be much because there's not much wiring in the first place. It's a pretty relatively small vehicle, and there's not a ton of electronics in the first place, and the motor's in the front, so you could save a little bit. You might boost your range by 5% or 10% by switching to a Lucid powertrain, or maybe a little bit with the hub motor powertrains, but I'm not convinced the hub motors are that helpful because it requires more high voltage wiring, and there's more unsprung weight, so that can lead to problems. So this is basically it. If you ask how efficient can we make a vehicle that can go highway speed, this is pretty much it, because it can literally charge itself off of sunlight. So if you get any smaller, then there's not enough usable space for the solar. Let's see. I'm hoping the truck that Tello is working on kick off a new small truck revolution. Yeah, I hope so too. It's been going well. There's a lot of stuff I can't talk about, but I'm excited. I was actually working on it in the background as we were listening to the earnings call, but I won't reveal anything. I'm not supposed to. I don't want to get in trouble. But there's cool stuff. There's cool stuff coming. It's going to be an exciting year for Tello, I think. There's going to be a lot of events and a lot less renders. I'll put it that way. New Model Y is awesome, better than the old. I agree. It's definitely much better than the old. If only the price was more reasonable. But I also don't think the old one is that bad. It's the old one is perfectly fine for most people, I think. My wife also was very turned off after she watched a few videos on the new Model Y about the seat material. She noticed very quickly that the new Model Y, including the new Model 3 as well, have this perforation in the seats, the little holes so that they can be ventilated, and she noticed that they get dirty a lot faster. Like those tiny little holes in the seat collect dust and collect little crumbs and dirts, and that becomes much harder to clean, and they don't age as well. They tend to wear out faster because the fabric, the covering they use isn't as strong. So once she heard about that, she was like, I don't want ventilated seats that bad. She was like, I get it's cool, but I would rather just have the solid material on the old design, because it's much easier to clean, and the covering of it is tougher. It doesn't tear or crease as easily. Should use a new Model Y, or maybe they didn't do the redesign controversy. I don't think there's much controversy. Most people like the new design, but they just didn't feel like changing it. Yeah, the new Y price should be similar once the non-launch versions are available. True, but I want to know about these more affordable models. I want to see what's cheaper than even the long-range rear-wheel drive. I want to see what's cheaper than this car. What do they got in store? How cheap are we thinking? Any Model S updates? I know it's dying, but I'm hoping for a facelift. I don't think they're going to update it, if we're being honest. I think they're probably going to kill it off. The Model S is the least popular Tesla right now. More people are buying the Model X. Did you see Jeeb's video where he mentioned he... No, I did not. Thank God I didn't. Thanks for filling me in on that. I was worried at first. Yeah, I haven't seen, to be fair, I haven't seen the new Model Y in person yet, but it's not bad. It's not, I think it looks decent, but everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I'm still just not a fan of crossovers is all. I want my wife to drive and own whatever she wants. If she wants a Model Y, I want her to have a Model Y. If she wants a Rivian R2, she can have that. If she wants a gas car, she can have that. I've learned a lesson. This is a pro tip to all of you unmarried people out there. As far as cars are concerned, let your partner drive what they want to drive, okay? Don't try to convince them that they're wrong for wanting something. Because if you make the decision, now any problem you have with that car comes back to you. If you have a problem with the vehicle, if she has a problem with the vehicle, or your partner has a problem with the vehicle, they're going to hold it on you. See, this never would have happened if you would have listened to me. You wanted this car. I never wanted this car. Learn your lesson there. That's some bit of free marriage advice. Let your partner drive what they want to drive. Cars are very individual. They're very personal. A reflection of a person's personality. That's right. Happy wife, happy life. So I got to decide what the our first EV purchase was, because we ultimately decided this was going to be my car. So I said, oh, well, I really like the Model 3. I want the Model 3. So that's what we went with. But next car is going to be hers. So she has complete control. Thankfully I know my wife would never want a Hummer EV, but if she did want one, I'd be like, okay, honey, you do you. I'm not going to drive it, but you can do what you want. Yeah, that would be a difficult conversation. Thankfully, my wife is very reasonable, so she doesn't want a Hummer EV. Yeah, apparently the white perforated seats don't clean up well. I have heard that. Yeah. Yeah, I would audibly gasp. If I think I want a Hummer, I'd be like, okay, we might need to sell the house. That'd be a little ridiculous, but yeah, I'm in favor of her getting whatever she wants. As far as what I would want, I would go with a Model 3 unless this was available. Because most of the time it's just me and one other person in the car. And I love the range. I love the efficiency. I love that it has knacks. Thank God. I like that the doors swing up. I like that it has CarPlay, the blind spot cameras. It's like, how efficient could you make a car? There's your answer. And Insta and EV3 are awesome small hatchback. I just wish the smaller cars were substantially cheaper. I feel like most of the time, like the Volvo EX30 came out, and it's in the US and it's 45 grand. I'm like, okay, well, it's the same price as a Model Y. EV3 or Insta for your wife if they come to the US. I doubt there'll be a reasonable price. I doubt they'll undercut a used Model Y. I don't know much about the EV3 other than it just looks like a shorter Model Y. I mean, sorry, shorter EV9. But also, I've been watching a lot of content lately about the Hyundai Kia vehicles. Very impressive charge curve, but horrible software. Everybody who I've watched who owns one is so fed up with the software. I don't think my wife would want it. I wouldn't be against it, but I know her pretty well, and I feel like she would get annoyed very quickly with bad software. So hopefully Hyundai Kia can do something about that, but I also get the impression that similar to the Volvo EX30, it wouldn't be as cheap as we'd like. It's probably not going to be 35 grand. It says that likely to arrive in the US in 2026. Okay. We'll go right up against the R2 then. We'll see. I'm in same position, but my wife doesn't care. Yeah, my wife mostly just wants a good deal, I think. And I think most likely we're going to find that on used Model Ys. They're getting pretty low. I'm sure the refresh helps with that too. That's a good thing. Let's check off the 5-year gas savings. Is it 30,000 for a long range all-wheel drive? That's pretty good. Fairly low miles. They still have the checkbox for the used EV tax credit. She asked me, she was like, do you think I'm too picky? And I'm like, you're not too picky, but she was like, I don't know, which Model Y would you want? And I was like, I wouldn't want a Model Y. I'm an efficiency first guy. I would get a 3 if I were you, but it's your decision. If I switch to the used 3s, look at that. Wow. 25K. Some of them probably dip below 25. Otherwise that checkbox wouldn't be there. Yeah, they're pretty good. Rear-wheel drive. That's pretty much my spec. 26 grand. Oh no, it doesn't have the white interior, but yeah, pretty close. 2022. It's got less miles though. And this is why I'm not selling my car. No. Even the reason I wouldn't sell it is because I would buy a Model 3 for that price. So there'd be no point to me selling my current Model 3 for that because I would rather keep it at that price. That's honestly pretty tempting. If I was in the market, that's pretty good. I'm either going R2, just going to see what market is like around that time. Yeah, probably end of next year. I think R2 will start to get affordable. I think it'll start out expensive next year, but I think they'll work their way down. But yeah, Rivian's awesome. Love the brand they've built. Love the product. It's awesome. I wish the R1T was better. It's just a little too big, and there's no midgate. The bed is awfully small for a vehicle that expensive. I think if we had to get a Rivian, we would still get an SUV version because we do car camping so much. I didn't expect that to be a big deal. I thought, oh yeah, Rivian R1T, that sounds kind of cool. I wish I could afford it. But now I'm like, if I can't car camp, I don't want it. I need to be able to car camp in my vehicle. We just that scenario keeps coming up over and over. Does my wife prefer the driving position of the Y, or is the hatch the main benefit over the 3? I don't think she cares as much. I don't know. I can't recall if she's ever actually driven a Model Y. I don't think she has. But that's not her main appeal to it. She just loves hatchbacks. She just loves the back opening a lot. So I asked her about that. I was like, honey, what if they add a hatchback to the Model 3? And then she was like, well, is there a lip on the trunk? Because I want it to be flat out the back. I'm like, well, let's assume it's flat. She was like, yeah, I guess that'd be okay. Doesn't sound like she's, well, no, hold on a second. She also cares about ground clearance. That kept coming up. Because there's been a few parking lots where they have those big divots, and the Model 3 bottomed out on a couple of them. They didn't damage it or anything. You could just hear it scrape a little. She was like, I wish the Model 3 had more ground clearance. So I think it's ground clearance and the hatch that she cares the most about. Driving position, I don't think she cares that much about. If I could find an R1S for 50K, instant buy. I think I haven't seen one for 50, but some of the original launch editions, which honestly have a lot of problems, I think I've seen some of those going for in the 50 range, but they're usually the truck. Everybody wants the SUV. The R1T does not hold its value as good as the R1S. 3-witch hatch would be ideal for me. I would love that. Yeah, I feel like that might win Louise back over to the Model 3 camp. I hope they do that. It really would be so simple too. That's the thing. If you just modeled the Model 3 roof seams just like the Model Y, you just you move the beam from right here, like on the roof line. Where's a good angle of the 3 from above? Right now in the Model 3, there's a cross beam about where the B pillar is, right here. If you do what you do in the Model Y, just move that beam back to here, right behind the second row seats. Your rear visibility would probably get a little worse, but I'm willing to put up with that. I've got cameras if I need them. You move that crossbeam back here closer to the C pillar, and then you have the hatch open all the way up here instead of down here. Just take a Model Y basically and shrink it. It's just a short Model Y. That's really there's not a big difference between the 3 and Y at the end of the day. So I feel like you could add a ton of practicality to the 3 just by adding a hatch. It's such a good looking car, especially the performance. Look at that. Ooh. Yeah. Hatchback Model 3 would be dope. Anyway, it's probably time to wrap this up. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you had a fun earnings report recap. And I hope you all have an excellent rest of your day. Bye-bye.